wherever you happen to be. We hope you enjoyed that video. I think we are ready to start this last day of the 61st Council. So I give the floor to our chair. Carlos Manuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, William, and good morning to everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you all on our last day of work. We will begin today, Friday, December the 3rd. We will continue with the 31st LDCF SCCF Council meeting with agenda item number 5, number 6, number 7, then number 8 and number 9, which are the other businesses, summary of the chair. Then we will go back to the 61st consultant meeting. We will resume. There's some important pending issues. There were some questions that were made yesterday by consult. We need to revisit some decisions because of the latest adjustments. We will go through the summaries of the chair, both the GEF and the LDCF SCCF, and we'll finalize the day with a very special activity, which is agenda number 16, which is the celebration of GEF 30 anniversary. So this is what we have for today. I look forward for a very productive day. So we will begin today, agenda number 5, 31st Council meeting, the LDCF SCCF, which is a progress report on the least developed countries funds and the special climate change fund. I'm delighted this morning to invite Ms. Chizuru Owaki to present document GF/D LDCF SCCF 31st/04/revision 01 progress report on the least developed countries fund and special climate change fund. So Chiz,
Carlos Manuel, Chiz is facing some connection links, so she's going to use my link now. Just bear with us as I transfer my computer to her. Just a moment.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Good morning, colleagues. I hope you can hear me, and apologies for the slight glitch we have. I guess being in the office of your boss has certain merits when you face difficulties. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to be presenting the progress report for the LDCF and SCCF on behalf of the LDCF SCCF team. Now, the report covers the progress made in the operation of the LDCF and SCCF since their inception, but also focusing on the progress made during the current reporting period, which is from April 1, 2021 to September 30th, 2021. Next, please. So I have a few slides to summarize the progress in the least developed countries fund. So, this slide presents a financial summary. Next slide, please. At the end of September 2021, cumulative pledges to the LDCF amounted to approximately $1.79 billion. Of the resources pledged, 1.6 billion, or about 90%, had been paid, and we have a remaining outstanding pledge of about $186 million. During this reporting period, a new pledge of $14.8 million was made by Belgium, and contributions received during the reporting period totaled $21.13 million. And these were confirmed from Belgium as well as the Netherlands. The Secretariat organized a highly successful pledging event last month at COP26, which occurred shortly after the reporting period for this particular period. So a particular report. So those amounts are not yet reflected in the financial summary. Funds available for new opportunities at the end of September 2021 amounted to $36.91 million. And of this amount, close to $20 million was allocated to the work program that the council approved yesterday. In terms of programming, 7 projects were approved for the LDCF support in the June 2021 LDCF work program. No MSPs were approved, but we are anticipating a number to come through for the challenge program, which I will discuss a little bit further down in my presentation. We also made progress on the CEO endorsements. 15 LDCF full-size projects were endorsed by the CEO for the total of $74.88 million. And these projects are expected to leverage over $468 million in co-financing. Next slide, please. This slide shows the LDCF agency distribution, and I believe Gustavo talked about this yesterday, and there were some council questions also. Just to show you on the left, as reported in the work program document during the GEF 7, there is a much greater balance among the agencies implementing LDCF projects. No agency holds more than 1/3 of the share. UNDP and FAO have 32% as well as 29% of the GEF 7 portfolio, followed by the African Development Bank at 12%. Cumulatively, since the inception of the LDCF, UNDP holds the largest share of the LDCF funding with 48%. This figure is actually starting to come down from the end of the previous reporting period and also looking at it in the GEF 7 period as a whole. The next highest share of LDCF funding decision is with FAO at 15%, followed by UNEP at 12% and African Development Bank at 10%. Other GEF agencies involved in the LDCF implementation include the World Bank, IFAD, Asian Development Bank, UNIDO, Conservation International, IUCN, and WWF. Next, please. This slide summarizes the expected results from the LDCF at the project approval or endorsed stage. And this is as of September 30th, 2021. LDCF projects are expected to directly reduce the vulnerability of more than 51 million people, improve the management of over 5 million hectares to withstand the negative effects of climate change, and train over 1 million people to identify, prioritize, implement, monitor, and or evaluate adaptation strategies and measures. Since the GEF started tracking sex disaggregated data at the beginning of GEF 6 in 2014, 50% of the SCCF beneficiaries and 48% of the people trained are expected to be female. In addition, more than 2,500 policies, plans, and processes are expected to be developed or strengthened to identify, prioritize, and integrate adaptation strategies and measures with the LDCF support. Next slide, please. We are happy that now we can actually provide the thematic distribution of the LDCF portfolio in the progress report once again. And LDCF projects are focused on a number of themes. Since inception, the most common thematic focus is on agriculture, followed by water and climate information services. And you will also notice nature-related and nature-based activities such as ecosystem protection as well as restoration. And forestry and coastal management areas are also some of the common themes of focus with the LDCF support. Next, please. Now I'd like to give an update on the Special Climate Change Fund. Next, please. As of September 30th, 2021, cumulative pledges to the SCCF amounted to $356 million. Of this total resources pledged, $349.44 million, or almost 98%, had been paid into the trust fund. No new pledges or contributions have been received for the SCCF during this particular reporting period. Since inception, $364 million for 88 projects have been approved under the SCCF. No new projects with SCCF support have been approved during the reporting period. We do have a number of MSPs, medium-sized projects, expected to be coming through for approval under the challenge program, which will be described a little bit further down in my presentation. During this reporting period, 4 medium-sized projects that previously had their PIFs approved were fully CEO approved. Next, please. And this slide shows the agency distribution of the SCCF portfolio. The SCCF has had a relatively balanced distribution of approvals among agencies. Since inception, 13 GEF agencies have been involved in the SCCF projects. In GEF 7, 7 agencies have had the projects approved for SCCF support. So cumulatively, World Bank has had the largest share at 26%, followed by UNDP at 25%, then EFAD at 12%, UNEP as 10%, FAO 7%, so on and so forth. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the expected results of the portfolio supported by the SCCF, and this is cumulative. SCCF projects are expected to directly reduce the vulnerability of more than 7 million people and improve the management of 4 million hectares to withstand the negative effects of climate change, and train over 209,000 people to identify, prioritize, implement, monitor, and/or evaluate adaptation strategies and measures. Once again, in terms of provision of gender-related data, since we started to track sex disaggregated data at the beginning of GEF 6, 50% of the SCCF beneficiaries and 47% of the people trained are expected to be female. Actually, are female, not expected. In addition, 462 policies, plans, and processes are expected to be developed or strengthened to identify, prioritize, integrate adaptation strategies, as well as measures. Next slide, please. So similar to the LDCF, we have also provided a thematic distribution chart for the SCCF this time. As in the case with the LDCF, SCCF projects are focused on the number of themes. Water and climate information services are at the most common thematic focus of SCCF projects to date, followed by agriculture, ecosystem protection and restoration management, disaster risk management, and so on and so forth. Thank you. And next slide, please. So I have a couple of slides to update Council on the challenge program for adaptation innovation. As you may recall, the LDCF and SCCF challenge program catalyzes technology innovation and also fosters private sector engagement by identifying, testing, and scaling up new models of adaptation action. As noted in the IEO's 2021 program evaluation of the SCCF, which will be discussed further today, this challenge program has been successful in attracting new and non-traditional partners as well as partnerships to the GEF. The program is addressing unmet needs and opportunities for catalyzing innovation and private sector action in support of climate adaptation. It's also instrumental in strengthening the profile of the LDCF and SCCF, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in my last slide. So far in the GEF 7 period, we have had 2 calls for proposals, the first one for 10 million in 2019. And this time in the fall of 2021, we had the second call for proposals, once again with $10 million from LDCF and SCCF. And for that, we had 409 submissions. And based on an application of criteria, which were presented to Council, I believe in 2018, we selected 10 project concepts. And we're very happy that we had an occasion at COP26 to announce the winners of the second call for proposals. Next slide, please. So these are the winning project concepts that we were very pleased to announce at COP26 in the GEF and GCF Pavilion. We also issued a press release, and this press release was the most viewed of all the GEF press releases that got issued during COP26. And this is in part thanks to the interest as well as the strong engagement of partners that have been selected in the challenge program competition. Technology and private sector adaptation innovators are working with the GEF agencies indicated here, and they include FAO, IFAD, UNIDO, and Conservation International, to prepare project for consideration of LDCF and SCCF support based on standard GEF policies and procedures through the normal project cycle. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide to present some data on the visibility raising as well as awareness raising efforts that we have undertaken in close coordination with the communications team of the GEF. And there's some figures from the visibility activities in fiscal year 21 are presented here. We continue to proactively strengthen strategic communication on the LDCF and SCCF. And there's also an information document that we posted prepared in collaboration with the communication team on information efforts as well as data gathered at COP26. So coming back to the efforts in fiscal year 21, 240 media stories directly featured the LDCF or SCCF in fiscal year 21. It's noteworthy that over 1/3 of this media coverage was generated for SCCF projects. And so I think this speaks volumes to the innovative and newsworthy feature of the SCCF portfolio, although it's relatively modest in scale as well as the support that we can provide. The number of page views on the GEF website containing SCCF, LDCF, adaptation, or any combination of these terms totaled over 50,000 views in fiscal year 2021. And once again, SCCF happened to be the most common of these terms viewed by the viewers. Next slide, please. Thank you very much, and we're happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you so much, Cheese, for your presentation. It was very good. I would like to complement a couple of things that you just mentioned, which is extremely important for Council. One is the challenge program. This is one of the most interesting initiatives that we have within this fund. You were able to give a very short summary of the winners, but I was able to read the long list of candidates and participants, more than 100, and it was incredible. The level of innovation from many different actors from many different countries. These are just a small investment for transformative ideas, and it was extremely challenging to narrow down on those last 10 winners. Most of the submissions were extremely positive, interesting, and very well aligned with what we want there. We look forward in this new period of LDCF to expand our capacities to engage more with private sector, non-state actors in this challenge program, which has a huge and bright future. And then we receive a very clear mandate from Council to invest heavily on communication and outreach with regards to these funds, and what we saw throughout the COP was a good example. Thanks, Cheese, for sharing the visibility effort that we have done. And I want to thank all Council members for supporting us in many different ways through their very own communication teams. My recognition to Robert and his team at the GEF for the great work in positioning LDCF and SCCF in the front line of innovation, in the front line of assistance to vulnerable communities and vulnerable societies. Thank you so much, Cheese, for your presentation. So with this, William, I pass it over to you to open the floor for the questions and comments from Council members.
Thank you very much. Gabriela, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, William. And good morning, afternoon, evening, colleagues. Thank you, Chiz, for this really brilliant presentation. Greatly appreciated. And also your presence always at all the COPs and everywhere all the time. Also greatly appreciated. Thank you. I have a few questions. You mentioned a thematic split per number of projects. Do you also have that per funding volume? That would be interesting to see whether it changes or whether it's the same. And then the challenge program, I fully shared Tom's view. He shared in the chat, he loves it. It's a great program. I'm also deeply in love with it since we have it. It's a very interesting program, but it has huge numbers of applicants and very few projects that we can fund due to the low, well, partially low levels of funding that we have, especially also in the SCCF. So what is your perception in terms of quality of the other applicants? Carlos Manuel was referring to that a little bit. Could we fund more of those? And what's the level of frustration? So if we see 408 and we can select 10, I wonder how the others feel putting so much effort into the application. And then, I don't know if we missed it, were there any pledges made to the SCCF in the context of COP26? I remember seeing a decision, but I didn't, because there was text in the decision language, but I didn't capture it anywhere else. If you have an update on that, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sano, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And first of all, we appreciate on behalf of the GEF network for this nice presentation. It presents a lot of meaningful thoughts, ideas, and experiences. This is really great. We appreciate. And we also like point out few things that before we did not hear, but now we hear that, and they are considering sex disaggregated data. This is on the good part, that once we have this disaggregated data, then we can identify who is at risk and what level that risk is. And we recommended earlier, and also we want to highlight again, that it should be age and sex disaggregated, because the elderly people or the children, the level of vulnerability they face, the level of vulnerability we don't face that one. So if we know this particular group, then it can help us. So we have few points, because this total program and project is mainly focusing on relating to resilience, relating to gender equality, relating to innovative approach, relating to visibility. You have already initiated some good work, and also monitoring. So my recommendation is, when you claim resilience, at least you tell A, B, C, D, 3, 4, 5 elements. As for example, what is the level of vulnerability you reduced? Or what is the level of capacity you increased? From where to where? What is the level of ecosystem they could rebuild or rehabilitate? And what is the level of economic status? Because this LDC and SEEDs, they are really at risk, and they are the people at the front line. So if we want to make them resilient to drought, to flood, to the sea level rising related other challenges, then we need to, at least minimum, we need to identify particular element that with the same language all the beneficiaries understand. So then we can measure the resilience. Second point is gender equality. Again, we want to point out, yesterday also I raised the Gustavo's presentation. He nicely presented that reduction of the gender gap, but we could not understand what particular position, what particular initiative did that reduced from here to there. It was not clear. So I hope he will help us to learn. Then innovative. When we talk about innovative, what is new, what you never did before? Now we are doing. Because of the challenges, because of the experiences, we learn something new that is in practice. So then we can identify At least this is something new, that this new should be considered as innovation, not the discovered. Visibility, we really appreciate that you have taken some initiative for visibility. In fact, last 30 years, we don't have that level of visibility of the GEF. We have the money the GEF invested. If we made the coins and we can put a mountain, but we could not make the visibility. It is not that I blame anyone. It is that it's a long process. It is not one individual's job. But the good thing is that we have capacity. We identified that there is something missing, and it is visibility. We also recommended how this visibility can be made. Visibility doesn't mean to us just let the people know or let the people understand, let the people support, engage them to make it happen. What is still missing? Engagement of the civil society groups at the country level, still it is zero. Because, to us, this integrated programming, it is like a very good new bicycle. When the driver is not there, then bicycle cannot even stand, forget about running. So we need to see how, in terms of quantitative value, in terms of qualitative value, in terms of engagement, in terms of ownership, not just the sweet words, but the words into action. How excellent words we have in our reports, but it is not in application. So we need to see all these things are coming in. At last, GEF CSO network is very much humble. In our last meeting also, I told you, we are so humble to offer our technical efforts. If you initiate regional projects, we will support you. We will consider age and sex disaggregated data with economic analysis, because we need to see if we invest additional $1 for gender mainstreaming, what is economic return out of other returns, environmental returns. If we don't know, that means we are putting a dam in the Pacific Ocean, it will never be seen. So we will do this. We will establish CSO, government, private sector, multi-stakeholder dialogue platform in each country, where the government will be the leader, civil society will be the facilitator, and they will, every year, they will have the annual meetings to undertake how to work together. We need to make a mechanism, it is visible, not invisible. It is visible, it is doable, and there are a lot of successful experiences that can help. We will do empowerment, climate literacy, where primary, secondary, tertiary, university level education are what the essence of the GEF. It will reach to the people. Everyone, they will, in their heart, it will be there. Teachers, they know, because from the tertiary teachers training center, they learn this. So it will be the practice, it will be the culture, how to address the climate. My last point is, the time is now. If we don't change, last 30 years we didn't do. And potentially it looks from the integrated programming, next 4 years we will not be able to do. If we don't change, it will change us. Because you have seen the forest fire in Australia, you have seen the forest fire in USA, you have seen when the winter, the temperature goes down, when the rain comes, it is over rain, when a hot air comes, then it is so hot. So time is coming, it will change us, and it will change us. We are the programmers, because we did all wrong. We have to be accountable to the people who are at the front line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sano. Gerard, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I want to start by thanking the Secretariat for the presentation. In fact, in my constituency, we welcome the report and take note of the progress made under the LDCF and the SCCF. I would very briefly like to comment on progress of the SCCF. In fact, accessibility to SCCF to non-Annex 1 countries has constantly been hailed as the main distinguishing factor of the fund, especially in terms of adaptation-focused grant sources is for non-LDCs and SIDS. However, the SCCF effectiveness and efficiency has been undermined by the lack of predictability on the availability of resources. The SCCF resource situation can be characterized as a vicious circle. Limited resources are available on one hand, so limited proposals are developed, which are interpreted by donors as limited interest for proposal developed, which are interpreted by, in fact, donors as limited interest or lack of demand. So donors do not provide the much needed funding. In turn, this renders the fund unable to respond to recipient expectation adequately. Further, it would not be wrong to say that SCCF has little visibility at all levels as a specific source of funding designed under the UNFCCC to address the cost of adaptation and create local benefits. SCCF has no logo, newsletter, or any other characteristic of future, which would facilitate its identity and establishment as a standalone brand. The lack of SCCF visibility become obvious in comparison with other climate funds, which use several identifying features to create a recognized brand. This lack of visibility has an implication regarding the SCCF funding situation. The importance and relevance of SCCF has to be underscored more than ever in the light of the dire concern raised in the latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report. Climate change is a glaring reality and persistently intensifying threat with more extreme effects than were previously anticipated. A clearly visible profile resulting from similar branding approach adopted for the LDCF and GEF itself could potentially help in attracting additional funding from donors and put the CCF on the way of becoming a really special fund. Initiative has to be undertaken in order to strengthen fund mobilization to CCF, preferably through a consistent replenishment process, contrary to leaving it open to voluntary pledges only. Back to you, William. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Liesel has the floor.
Hello, thank you. We very much welcome the report and of course like to thank Chiz for the presentation and take note of progress made under the LDCF. We really appreciate the increased focus that is coming more and more on gender, and actually wanted to ask if possible in future editions of the report, we could actually transfer some of that information into the executive summary. Again, as we mentioned when we reported back on under the GEF Trust Fund, we look forward to hearing about actual results achieved under gender. And just a curious question is the indicators in table 4 of the report. I'm interested to understand why they are not disaggregated by gender. The gender section starts down below. We still want to make note of the fact that UNDP is the agency still receiving the highest percentage of funding approvals at 48%. Given the importance of the sector, we're pleased to see that the agricultural sector is the one with the highest number of projects. And we're wondering if it would be possible to get a picture of agency concentration within the agricultural sector. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Liesel. Tanya, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was very, very interesting. Just a few words to continue from where we left off yesterday. So we welcome the progress report, of course, and with Finland and the Netherlands being part of the Champions Group of Adaptation Finance, our constituency highly values LDCF's focus on adaptation work. There still remains a finance gap for adaptation, which the Champions Group is trying to address with their own funding and at the global level. Next to advocating for a more balanced approach of climate finance, the Champions Group of Adaptation Finance also pleads for increasing the accessibility of multilateral funding, which oftentimes is a technical and resource-intensive process. We should seek avenues to simplify the process of accessing multilateral funding and assist vulnerable countries in building their capacities in this space. On that note, we commend the pledges made by 12 donors to the LDCF during COP26, which allows more work to be done on climate adaptation in the least developed countries. And in Glasgow, the Netherlands pledged 25 million euros for LDCF. In 2020, Finland contributed 7 million euros to the fund, and I'm happy to announce that this year Finland is still pledging another 2 million euros to the LDCF. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Veturi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Willem. Thank the Secretariat for the presentation. Since the implementation of the project cancellation policy in 2019, almost all GEF 7 LDCF and SCCF projects that fall under the revised cancellation policy have requested extension. We understand that it is not yet possible to assess the full impact of COVID-19 pandemic at this stage. We, however, encourage the GEF Secretariat to document COVID-related challenges or hurdles encountered by project proponents for future reference. We appreciate the efforts of GEF for branching out from the traditional GEF programming model by successfully launching the challenge program, first and second core for concepts, and then engaging with the private sector and other partners new to GEF. We are looking forward to witnessing similar initiatives and efforts at making GEF more inclusive and diverse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Karin, you have the floor.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. We would like to thank the Secretariat for the progress report and also for the interesting presentation of the report. To start with, we agree with Sano's comment when it comes to sex and age disaggregated data. I think it would be good to have also age looked into in that respect. Also, the comment made on visibility. We're really happy about the update on visibility, much appreciated. But also, I think that what Sano is mentioning, that link to ownership at country level and what can be done more in that respect is important. We appreciate the commitment to continue to work with GCF, that is to offer streamlined support and to avoid overlap that is mentioned in the report. And then I have a question. I'm not sure if we misunderstood yesterday, if there is pipeline of projects or not when it comes to the LCDF, and if not, is that going to be a problem when there are more funds coming in next year? Is there a risk that there will be no projects coming up in the next program? Or maybe we misunderstood what was mentioned yesterday in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karin. Annette, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Germany highly welcomes the progress report for the LDCF and SCCF, which provides a valuable overview for us of portfolio performance in a transparent and comparable manner. And we'd particularly like to congratulate GEF Secretariat and countries and the agencies involved for the success of the challenge program. That's very, very comforting. And we noted the positive media repercussion reported over the COP. And we're also very much looking forward to the experience you have with that being reported to us. And also if you could share the experience with this adaptation innovation across the climate funds, I think that would also be highly appreciated by the others. While we appreciate all efforts by the Secretariat to provide documentation in a timely manner, we would like to reiterate our request that the document will be made available 4 weeks prior to the meeting in the future. It's very difficult for us to coordinate across the ministries. We would further like to reiterate our suggestion for the report to include tables of key indicators disaggregated by year. And we'd also support what Sano and Liesl and Karen just mentioned about data disaggregation by gender and age. Currently, 5 countries have funds remaining for the GEF 7 period, as we noted, and 3 LDCs have not accessed funding during GEF 7 yet. While this marks a continued improvement over the previous council meeting, which we very much appreciate, we would like to inquire about the reasons why those countries have either not accessed any funding or tapped into their remaining shares of funding yet. And thanks so much, Oki, about the capturing the media presence. That was highly valuable to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the list of speakers. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, William, and thanks to everybody here. With this, I would like to invite Cheese to respond, questions to react to comments. Cheese, please.
Thank you, Carlos Manuel. I would like to respond to questions very quickly. On question from Switzerland, Gabriella, you had a couple questions. First was the issue of whether there were any additional pledges made in COP26 to the SCCF, and the answer is no. There were no donors that pledged resources to the SCCF at COP26. However, there have been some discussions with donors who might be interested as we have further articulation on the optimization of the SCCF within the context of the programming strategy development, which will be the next agenda item. And we're hopeful that there may be additional donors that would be interested in making volunteer contributions, and we'll pursue that further. On your question of the challenge program, as well as encouraging words from other council members, thank you so much for the support for the challenge program. Gabriela, you had a question on whether there are any frustrations as well as limitations. I think we would love to be able to do the challenge program in a larger scale. And this is something that we would like to discuss further within the context of the next strategy development. And obviously this is related to the availability of resources, particularly under the SCCF, that would need to be considered for us to do it. In terms of whether there are any frustrations among applicants, I would say that the call for proposals is open to everybody. And they are only requested to submit very limited, brief amount of information. So based on that, we have the conversation to select them. And taking your suggestion from the last council meeting, thank you, we actually did reach out to all the finalists from the first round and invited them to submit their proposals again. And some of them actually did do so. So I wouldn't say it's a frustrating exercise from the part of the applicants. Rather, they look at it as a chance for them to actually talk to us and propose new initiatives. And those who are selected are genuinely interested. And as the program matures and we can expand further, we hope to be able to address some of the issues associated with the limited number of the applicants we can go ahead and support. On Sano's recommendations, as well as questions on level of vulnerability, as well as how we're capturing some of the data, for the LDCF and SCCF, we are capturing additional data on socioeconomic activities as well as some qualitative data above and beyond what gets captured in those core indicators that we reported. And some of that data then actually then get analyzed, and we are reporting them back in, for instance, the annual monitoring report. So we hope that this is something that we can continue to do so. And thank you for the offer for the engagement of the CSO network. I think if you look at the portfolio projects, particularly the GEF 7 ones, we are seeing an increasing engagement of CSOs as participants as the projects, instead of I would say being there as for the stakeholder consultation or beneficiaries only. So we'd like to increase that trend. Comment from Gerard, thank you very much. We are cognizant of the accessibility challenges, particularly for non-LDCs and CIS through the SCCF. And again, this is a matter we would like to discuss further within the context of the programming strategy development, as well as the future of the SCCF, which is ongoing right now. In terms of the raising the visibility, we are making efforts, and as reported, it's actually the SCCF that seems to be getting more hits as well as attention across the board from the adaptation support that we can provide. So I do think they are making progress here, and I'd like to thank the our communications colleagues for their concerted efforts. And you will also notice on our website, there's quite a bit of information that we're providing on the LDCF as well as the SCCF. Question from Denmark. We can, yes, put the data on gender in the executive summary as suggested. In terms of why we didn't include data, gender aggregated data in table 4, it's simply because GEF as a whole started to do better tracking of gender data from the start of GEF 6. And what we're presenting in table 4 is a cumulative data. So we had an internal conversation on this and discussed how best to present the gender, sex disaggregated data. And we decided that we would actually put it under the table. In the future, perhaps maybe there's a better way to make it a little bit clearer, that information, without making any confusion as to if the gender data covers the entirety of the portfolio. So we'll look into this and revert back and then perhaps have some improvement for the next one. And in terms of the actual achievements, we are reporting back on that in annual monitoring report. In terms of question of the agency concentration of agriculture, we can look into this and see what data we might have and revert back on this. And another question, I think, I don't know if it was Denmark or perhaps Sweden. There was a question of whether we can provide the data, the monetary data by different sectors that we're covering. We can try to provide this information with a caveat that a number of projects are supporting multiple sectors, and it's not necessarily very clear cut how much of a total project funding will go into one sector over another. So we can try to provide this data, but at the end of the day, we might not be able to present the data that would add up to 100%. It might be above and beyond because there are some overlaps. Okay. Yes, there was a question on the pipeline. Just to clarify, we are in constant consultations with countries as well as agencies on what projects are under development. We're not keeping a formal pipeline because that got us into trouble in the towards the end of GEF 6, particularly for the LDCF and SCCF. So we're not keeping an active pipeline, but we are in constant communication with countries. So we have a much better understanding of the process as well as state of project development in the countries. And we can assure you that for the final work program for the LDCF and hopefully SCCF, we will get quite a number of projects. And As for the question as to why some of the countries have yet to propose projects, some of the countries have taken their time to do internal consultations. Sometimes they're waiting for certain funding opportunities to materialize, but they have all been informed through the GEF Secretariat, also through the LDC group, LEG, COP, so on and so forth, and country consultations, that now is the time for them to really wrap up the programming so that we can support as much as we can, and they can maximize on the opportunities provided by the end of the GEF 7 period. Ambassador Hattori comment, thank you, in terms of making it more diverse for the challenge program. We have had some success in having innovative programs and projects through the challenge program in the Pacific as well as CIS. We would like to do more, and with perhaps the possible enhancement of the challenge program and GEF 8 under discussion, we might be able to do something more innovative and a little bit more larger scale. Fingers crossed on that one. In terms of your question on COVID impacts, we are keeping track of the force majeure exceptions requests that come to us, and we will report back on that in, for instance, the annual monitoring report, where we're actually providing the data on the amount of time it takes for agencies to come back for the CO endorsement, as well as some descriptions on the impact of COVID. There was a question from Karen from Sweden in terms of the GCF collaboration, and we will continue to expand on that and be able to provide further information in both the work program as well as the progress report. And the pipeline question, I think we already answered. In the question from Germany, yes, we can look into and elaborate further on how different funds are addressing climate innovation through different initiatives and programs. And we are actually planning to put this information into the programming strategy draft, because one donor country requested it. And we can also reflect upon that in future council documentation. And we will also provide a key indicators per year. We wanted to do this towards the end of the fiscal year, because then you can have more clarified year by year indicator achievements. So for the next progress report, we will provide that information. And I'm cognizant that this is a request you also made at the last council meeting. And on your comment on honoring the posting deadline, yes, we will do our best, and our apologies. Once again, this period was a little bit challenging for us with the COP26 as well as the programming strategy conversation happening on top of each other. But I am encouraged that we did make some progress in terms of trying to post a document earlier than, I would say, the last council meeting. And we will do our best to make sure that the 4-week posting period is honored the next time around. I hope I answered all the questions. And back to you, Carlos Manuel.
Thanks so much, Cheese. William, do we have anybody else in the list of speakers?
Nobody else.
Okay, thanks to everybody for their different interventions. And just, Cheese, thank you so much. Having completed this discussion for this agenda item, I would like to invite Council to adopt the draft decision that is included in document GF/LDCF/SCCF 31st/04/revision of 01. I don't see any objections. Decisions approved. Thank you so much. Thanks to all. With this, now we go over to agenda number 6, update on the development of the GEF programming strategy on adaptation to climate change for the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund and operational improvements from July 2022 to June 2026. This is an information document. There is no decision. It is my pleasure to ask our co-chair, Mete, to lead this agenda item.
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel, and good morning, and good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for introducing this agenda item. I will just give the floor to Shizuru that will present the document to us. Shizuru, please.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I would like to provide an update on the development of the Climate Adaptation Programming Strategy for the LDCF and SCCF and the operational improvements for 2022 to 2026. The Council information document provides an overview of the consultations held to date and presents an updated schedule of the meetings. This slide may look somewhat familiar to you. This is just to capture what we're aiming to do through the process, as well as the updating and consultations of programming strategy. In the programming strategies and operational improvements, we are discussing and presenting strategic adaptation priorities, what those might be, informed by science, and as well as reflections from priorities from countries. And based on that, we are pulling together the programming directions where we identify the strategic areas as well as priorities and what kinds of activities would then be eligible under the LDCF and SCCF for the next 4-year period. We are also presenting funding scenarios for both the LDCF and SCCF, and this will be something that will come up in the next meeting, the second meeting. And we've also had a number of options, 4 options and resource allocations already presented to the participants of the strategy development for the LDCF and SCCF, as well as optimization scenarios for the SCCF. So these in sum are the kinds of subjects as well as topics that we're addressing and presenting and consulting with countries. Next slide, please. Okay, so a draft programming strategy document was prepared and presented at the first strategy meeting, which was held virtually on October 19th of this year. The meeting discussed strategic prioritization as well as positioning of the 2 funds, the LDCF and SCCF. We also had a very robust conversation on proposed thematic and priority areas and 4 options for resource mobilizations as contained in the document. And we were pleased to also have the IEO join and present the programming evaluation of the LDCF, which was made available last year. So it was a good opportunity to recap what the findings as well as recommendations were in there. And we have made efforts to ensure that the recommendations as appropriate can be reflected in the next programming strategy as well as operational enhancements. We also had a very good discussion on option for SCCF optimization. And we will continue to have this conversation in the subsequent meetings. The documents, presentations, and chair summaries all have been circulated and they have been posted on the GEF website. And participants and observers were requested to submit written comments on the draft strategy document by November 16th. And we did receive a number of written comments in response to this request. At this juncture, we're in the process of revising the draft based on the feedback we received during the meeting, as well as the written comments. And we will circulate this draft and to be discussed at the at the second meeting, which will be held in February. I'll discuss a little bit more about that in the subsequent slides. Next slide, please. And this slide captures and summarizes the informal consultations that were held prior to the first meeting. And this follows the outline of consultation process that we presented in the planning note, which was approved at the last LDCF-SCCF Council meeting. The first of these informal consultations was a technical dialogue, which was held virtually on September 16th. And this was like a mini technical advisory group meeting for the LDCF and SCCF. For the GEF Trust Fund, we had a big tag series meetings in February of this year. So we ran this technical dialogue under the Chatham House rule, and it was attended by leading scientists, technical experts, and practitioners in climate change adaptation, as well as finance. This provided really good conversation as well as rich information on the latest science, as well as implementation of climate adaptation initiatives. And they provided insights from the field, and they really helped to support and inform the strategy development done by the GEF Secretariat. Next, we organized informal consultations with donor countries on September 27th, which was attended by many key donors. The meeting also responded to the request that we received at the June SCCF LDCF Council to facilitate the establishment of donor working group. In this consultation, we also heard views from donors on thematic and operational priorities in terms of financing modalities. And we also had a good conversation on how to enhance the visibility of the funds. Finally, we had informal consultations with the recipient countries during the week of October 11th. These consultations were very helpful and included participation of representatives from CIS and LDCs as well as non-LDCs. The meetings provided a really timely opportunity for us to hear views on the thematic and operational priorities that the countries wanted to bring up to us, as well as financing modalities that from the recipient perspectives, we also thought that was a very good opportunity to hear their views on some of these options. Next slide, please. At the first strategy meeting on 19th of October, resource mobilization, as I indicated, was one of the key themes discussed. Some donors expressed then an interest to organize a pledging session at UNCCC COP26 in Glasgow, and also suggested the GEF Secretary to follow up on this at the time of the strategy meeting. In response, and I have to say thanks to the leadership of Switzerland and really collaboration of so many donors and the LDC group, we organized a ministerial dialogue and pledging session for the LDCF and SCCF on November 9th at COP26. In this meeting, as mentioned earlier, 12 donor governments pledged $413 million in new funding. It was we very much appreciate, and it was an honor for us to welcome ministers from Belgium and France who participated in person. I know they were very busy, so very much appreciated. We also had a ministerial video from Ireland and a member of parliament from Denmark, and a number of very high and senior level representatives from various countries, donor countries participating. And let me take this opportunity to thank many of you here for your support and for helping to raise the profile and recognition of the LDCF as well as the SCCF. And we're also happy to report since COP26, perhaps sort of stimulated by the visibility as well as the conversation and good momentum, we have a new donor who is now expressed an interest to contribute to the LDCF. So we're following up on that with the trustee. Recipient country side, LDCs were represented by ministers from Bhutan, Cambodia, Senegal, and Timor-Leste. And we were also pleased to welcome many senior representatives who attended and shared their experiences as well as perspectives on the LDCF and SCCF. The event was very high profile, high visibility opportunity to share perspectives on the importance of adaptation support to the LDCs and CIS. We think the pledging event also helped to build momentum for the successful COP26 outcomes, as underscored by the participation of the UK COP presidency in the event. And we also think that this was a good opportunity to showcase at the COP the positive impact in and for the LDCs through the LDCF and also the SCCF. Furthermore, and I think this is the important statement, we think that this event really served as a major milestone for the LDCF and SCCF as we consult further with countries as well as stakeholders on the programming strategy development for the next phase of the LDCF and SCCF. Next slide, please. I mentioned this in the progress report. We really have continued to prioritize communication awareness raising opportunities to help build visibility for the LDCF and SCCF. And as mentioned, there is an information document on this particular topic, focusing on our efforts as well as, I guess, results on the concerted efforts made on communications at UNCCC COP26. So we were engaged in an extensive communication activities, and the circle graphs you see on the left show that there was a tremendous increase in the number of LDCF, SCCF, and GEF mentions in the media in the 1 month period around COP26. And we have seen quite a bit of more results as well as potential outreach coming from these media, and they include social media as well as more traditional media figures. So I think the percentage increases of 300, 900%, tell a very good story that these efforts are actually being catalyzed and being propagated towards a much higher visibility as well as awareness of the impact as well as efforts of the LDCF and SCCF. Next slide, please. So here's an updated schedule towards the completion of the LDCF and SCCF strategy. We're proposing to have next meeting, the second meeting of the LDCF and SCCF strategy meeting on February 16th. And we're also proposing to have this meeting virtually. And based on requests that have been received from Council, we are still expecting to have the third meeting for the LDCF and SCCF strategy to be in person, to be held back to back with the fourth replenishment meeting of the GEF Trust Fund. So as soon as the dates as well as the modalities are settled, we will be circling back to the participants as well as observers on the dates as well as arrangement. And finally, we plan to present the final programming strategy document at the 32nd LDCF and SCCF meeting. Next slide, please. Participation has been a key to enhance and finalize a programming strategy document to really make sure that the diverse perspectives as well as priorities are heard as well as reflected. The first meeting was attended by donors as well as recipient country representing the LDC group, Asian Pacific, Eastern Europe, Latin American, Caribbean, and small island developing states. Observers from the GEF agencies, GEF CSO network, and also a representative from the GCF took part. Adaptation Fund has been invited also. We will continue to reach out to the stakeholders through the process to ensure that there is good inputs for the strategy development, and that the conversation as well as the ensuing strategy development can be enriched by the participation as well as observers' inputs. So with that, I close my presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that might come from council members. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and congratulations on the very successful resource mobilization event at COP26. I will now open the floor for comments and questions from the council, also reminding us that there is no decision on this agenda item. May I ask you, William, to announce the list of speakers?
Thank you very much. Tom, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. Thank you, Chiz. The consultations are actually not only helpful to you, but it is helpful to us too. Quite timely. That's why we were able to onboard our new minister so quickly in order to participate at COP26 and to join the dozen to support the good efforts of the LDCF. The one question I have, I'm always about business and trying to shorten the timeline to push money out in order to be helpful. What is the relationship between the LDCF and the Adaptation Fund? Because there seems to be a relationship and I don't know what it is. It would be good to know how we can structure not only the LDCF contribution that is coming soon, I hope, and also our Adaptation Fund contribution so that they can play on each other to be helpful to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Liesl, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, just say thanks, Tom, for asking the question about the relationship with the Adaptation Fund. I think that will be very useful for us as well to understand. I would just like to say from our point of view that we really appreciated the establishment of the donor working group and really look forward to participating. And we very much welcome the document that was produced. From Denmark's point of view, we're really happy to see that food security and health are one of the priority themes, and we are very interested in working closely with GEFSEC on this. I believe we've already tried to set up some meetings on this. It's likely to become a priority area. I'd really like to recognise Chiz and the team's renewed efforts on LDCF visibility. It's really also helping us within our own ministry and beyond, but to raise the profile of LDCF, which for Denmark now with its increased focus on climate change adaptation inputs is really valuable. So in lieu of COP26 and everything you did then, kudos to all of you. It was really great. Would you be able to give us a quick snap brief of what's envisaged in the comms and visibility enhancement program in the new strategy? But if there isn't the time, I understand that, and it's something we could follow up bilaterally later. Just to say that Denmark is in support of the model of multi-year pledging. I just think that's important to mention here. And yeah, just looking forward to the next meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tanya, you have the floor.
Thank you. We would also like to thank the Secretariat for great work on developing the new programming strategy on adaptation to climate change. And we also thank for the updated schedule for the upcoming meetings. We have submitted written comments to the programming strategy after the first meeting, but just a few highlights on those. We appreciate the strategic shift towards innovation and private sector engagement and inclusion and participatory approach. Secondly, we note with great pleasure that gender performance has improved and LDCF has managed to enhance domestic institutional capacities in LDCs through the involvement of national institutions in project development, approval and delivery. We want to encourage further implementation of the 2017 gender policy and continued development of its measurement. And then lastly, when it comes to replication and scaling up, coherence with other climate funds is crucial. In this respect, we commend the progress made in formalizing collaboration between GEF and GCF and encourage measuring the results for future learning and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stéphanie, vous avez la parole.
Bonjour à tous. Je vais m'exprimer en français. Je crois que vous ne voyez pas. Vous ne me voyez pas. Voilà. Bonjour à tous. Je vais m'exprimer en français. Nous soulignons l'importance des enjeux d'adaptation au changement climatique, comme l'ont démontré les négociations à la COP26. Et nous remercions le secrétariat de préparer cette nouvelle stratégie pour le SCCF et le LDCF. Cet effort collectif qu'on a vu à la COP26 doit encourager le LDCF à collaborer avec les autres fonds actifs sur cette thématique, comme par exemple le fonds d'adaptation, ce qu'a aussi évoqué Tom. Ensuite, nous saluons aussi les projets à co-bénéfice sur plusieurs domaines, comme l'utilisation des solutions fondées sur la nature pour l'adaptation, avec un co-bénéfice climat et biodiversité, comme on l'a vu dans le dernier Work Programme. Et enfin, nous vous encourageons à poursuivre la tendance à la diversification des agences de mise en œuvre. Merci encore au secrétariat, aux agences et aux pays pour cette stratégie et la mise en œuvre des projets. Merci.
Merci, Stéphanie. Sano, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, we appreciate this strategy. It is greater than many great programs. Thank you. And we would like to request to complement few more points so that it will be a really great strategy. 2022 to 2026. As a part of the project strategy, there will be many projects, and it is the GEF that they are the architect of all success they are making. And it is also the GEF, particularly the programming department, you are the architect if there is something missing, because we need to recognize our success and we need to recognize if we cannot do something. So now it is agreed that every project should have age and sex disaggregated baseline, focusing on vulnerability, capacity, ecosystem, and economic status. We also discussed that the economic analysis is very essential, along with the visibility of the GEF projects and programs. So our recommendation is, can we make these elements as a mandatory elements for each project of the LDCF and SSCF? If it is, again, our humble offer, the GEF CSO network would be grateful, would be honored to work on this particular agenda so that you can add value, we can add value together. But our recommendation is, please make it mandatory. As for example, before 90s, all projects did not consider environmental issues, gender issues. But now there is no project without gender issue. Similarly, we want to be innovative. This is a part of innovation of this strategy. These elements should be part and parcel of each project for LDCCF and SCCF, where GEF CSO network want to be the partner, want to be the collaborator, want to be the supporter, how you want. We are ready to contribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sano. Sheila, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Carlos, co-chair. I just wanted to make a few comments, and I wanted to thank the Secretariat, as others have done, for organizing the outreach that they have done and to be developing this LDCF and SCCF strategy in such an inclusive manner. I think the conversations and documents and everything that I have seen and participated in have been really comprehensive and useful for our internal thinking on how to provide feedback on these on this process, particularly with the SCCF proposed strategy. Very much appreciate the creative thinking on meeting the finance needs of small island developing states, and we're looking forward to the further conversations on that, on those options that were presented in the strategy paper. And I would also agree with Finland that it was very nice to see the improvements related to the private sector engagement. So look forward to seeing additional work on that side of things. And I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheila. Gabriela, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. Yeah, I'll join others with regards to appreciation for the development of the strategy and also the communication pieces that have been done. And of course, thank all the contributors that were present and made a pledge for the LDCF at COP26. It was greatly appreciated. And now maybe a reminder to all of us that there was an agreement on this doubling target or aim, or however you want to frame it, goal for 2025. And the LDCF and the SCCF are a stream through which we can achieve this. They're one of many, but they're certainly a very effective one. The results that we see from the funds are very encouraging. And in this regard, we just wanted to highlight again the issues around the SCCF contributions. So I can just say for Switzerland, we will continue to contribute if others will chip in as well. If not, we will also have to stop our contribution because it's just not effective as a small contributor to be the only one to cover all the overhead costs and so on for the fund to continue to operate. And then we urge you to reach out to your political counterparts who are involved in the negotiations, because I can already tell you the backlash at COP27 will be quite significant if we are not able to put some money into that fund. And it was decided in Paris to continue the fund. And if we do not sufficiently fund it, it will just slowly die out. And I think that's an issue. Now, in that regard, we very much welcome the efforts from the GEF Secretariat to put forward a strategy which meets the needs, which also suits a complementarity and coherence niche, focusing on SIDS. There's a very strong call for increased funding for LDCs and SIDS, also from this COP, a very strong push from the most vulnerable. And so this strategy certainly fits very well into that. And it was also quite well received. There's some decision language around that, which also notes the focus and the need for increased funding for LDCs and SIDS and for private sector involvement. And you captured both of that in your new strategy. So we greatly appreciate that. And I'll end with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. Annette, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to add my voice to Switzerland about the successful pledging event at the COP, and that was very well received. And unfortunately, we could only participate on general director level, but we tried our very best in these days with before we actually had a new government. This has just changed. Our new minister, in her very first public speech, mentioned adaptation as one of the primary goals of her reign in the ministry. If there's anything we can do as donors to encourage other donors, we are more than happy to assist, to reach out. And especially on adaptation, as we are still discussing with our ministries, within our ministries, and coordinating whether we are actually going to join the general directors, the secretaries call for 50-50 adaptation goal, but at least we joined the champions group on adaptation. We're very proud of that, and so we're trying to actively support that as much as possible. Just to inform you that I initiated a sort of meta exercise on across all climate funds that are within my purview, and trying to look at the architecture, the complementarities, value for money, etc. You might have heard me a couple of times now already speaking about reaching out to other climate funds. That's one of the aspects, but that also means that we are looking into SCCF, and I heard what Switzerland's plea, if I may call that, Gabriela. It's very well received. Again, we do have a new government. We haven't had a chance yet to coordinate that across, but we will do so in short time. Thank you very much.
It looks like this ends the list of speakers, and I will give the floor to Shizuru to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to council members for overall positive feedback as well as an encouragement for us to move ahead with the strategy development and also recognizing the importance of the adaptation agenda as well as adaptation finance. I think there was a question, a clear question from Canada as well as Denmark, I think, regarding the how we're collaborating with adaptation fund as well as other funds. We are actually proactively involved with adaptation fund, the GCF, the CIFs, as well as the NAMA facility under the Climate Funds Collaborative Platform. So we have a regular mechanism to exchange ideas and best practices on key themes such as adaptation results management and how do we do monitoring reporting to strengthen coherence across the funds together. So we're working through existing platforms like that one to make sure that there's good coordination as well as collaboration among funds. On a day-to-day basis, Adaptation Fund, as you know, is also housed within the GEF Secretariat. So we do have very close collaboration on the Secretariat level. For instance, we are interested to co-review some of the Adaptation Fund projects, and we're also consulting with them and engaged with them in the programming strategy development process. They are one of the observers invited along with the GCF, and so we have a very close collaboration at the secretariat level, on the project level, as well as through these kinds of platforms. So we do think that there is a good basis as well as foundation for us to build upon to work with them. Liesel from Denmark, thank you for your encouraging support, and as well as we very much appreciate the efforts you've made to have your member of parliament come and make the announcement for the LDCF support. You had a question regarding what we'd be including on communication visibility program in GEF. What we had so far proposed is a dedicated program that would enable us to do this kind of communication visibility enhancement in a more programmatic way through a 4-year period. Traditionally, we have done these kinds of communication visibility in a project by project basis or event by event basis. And we do feel that there is a need to have a more streamlined but programmatic and consistent and enforced mechanism for us to do communication outreach in the GEF 8 period. So that's part of the proposal that we would like to discuss further. France had a comment on co-benefits and sort of highlighting the how we can do the adaptation program and have multiple benefits across the nature-based solutions, biodiversity. This point is very well taken. And also, if you look at the thematic coverage, as well as priorities that we're putting forward on nature-based solutions, agriculture, and even water, we do believe there are ample opportunities for us to really harness these kinds of multiple benefits. And we're committed to make sure that they are prominently captured in the strategy, as well as when we talk about the results framework, as well as how we look into the capturing the impacts of the projects as well as portfolio as a whole. Sano's comment, very well taken. CSO community engagement is very important. And for a relatively small fund for like the LDCF as well as the SCCF, it is really important that we do support innovation as well as do some level of calculated risk taking. So we're making sure that those elements are reflected very well in the strategy moving forward. And I think I forgot to answer the question last time on the provision of age aggregated data. We will look into this, although there might be some, I would say, practical challenges of doing this, but we will look into how this could be done, particularly on the beneficiaries as well as training side. Thank you for encouraging words from Shella, and I'm also hearing from Germany that there are certain donors expressed today that there may be some appreciation on the creative thinking as well as options for the SCCF. So we look forward to having further conversation on these issues, especially in light of the comment from Gabriella from Switzerland on having multiple donors in order for the SCCF to continue in a more effective manner. Comment from Germany as well as I think Tanya from Finland. We're very much cognizant of the work done by the Champions Group, and we look forward to really following up on that one and really to see how the adaptation finance as well as adaptation support can be the front and center and an integral part of the climate support moving forward. So I think that's it from my side. Carlos Manuel, would you like to say anything?
Well, I just want to compliment you with what you just mentioned with regards to the work that we do with the Adaptation Fund. Of course, as adaptation takes a higher political profile, and based on the fact that very successful investments that we and the Adaptation, the Green Climate Fund does, and in the context of the overall political conversation of the climate funds, we look into 2022 as a year where we will be working more strategically, more long-term vision, more on the base of maximizing and optimizing the potential to complement within the two funds, and I'm really excited that this is happening. Also, I want to recognize the great job that the Adaptation Fund did in COP26, led by Nico and his team. Was fantastic. They had a very good replacement process. I'm super excited about how they have done it. As a former Costa Rican, as a former Minister of Government of Costa Rica, I used to work a lot with the Adaptation Fund in Costa Rica, and I like a lot of what they did and do. So there's a lot of room where we can be able to really think and plan and collaborate on this long-term vision as climate adaptation becomes a major issue. We see a high potential to go beyond what we've been doing, particularly on the area of climate adaptation on food systems and water security. I've been having conversations with the Adaptation Fund on how do we bring those major investments that are traditionally seen as climate mitigation investment, like forest conservation and forest restoration, as a good way to help create the resilient impacts in many countries. So bringing those climate forest mitigation oriented projects into the realm of climate adaptation is extremely important. And here's where ecosystem-based adaptation, nature-based solutions comes together. And I will say that LDCF, SCCF, and the adaptation funds are really well situated to be able to provide the large-scale impact to donors and to recipient countries. So this year, 2022, is a year that we will increase our collaboration at many different levels. And we're already having those conversations with Nico, his board, and his teams. Thanks, Chis.
Thank you very much to Chis and also to Carlos Manuel for these responses and comments. This end our discussion on this agenda item, and we will include the key points in the highlights documents from this meeting. I will now give the word back to Carlos Manuel for the discussion of agenda item 7. Carlos Manuel, please.
Thank you, Mette. Thank you so much. And as you indicate, we're now going to agenda item number 7, which is 2021 program evaluation of the Special Climate Change Fund and Management Risk Fund. to the 2021 program evaluation of the Special Climate Change Fund. I would like to invite Mr. Juha Juto and Anna Big to present document GEF/LDCF/SCCF 31st/E/01/revision 2021 program evaluation of display Special Climate Change Fund. Juha, Anna, you got the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Actually, yeah, we'll make a joint presentation, but I'll be the one talking, and Anna is the one operating the presentation here. So it is my great pleasure to present to you the program evaluation of the Special Climate Change Fund, which covers the performance and progress towards SCCF objectives and results in the 4 years since the previous SCCF program evaluation in 2017. Given the limited growth in the portfolio, the evaluation reviewed all the 10 projects that had been approved since the 2017 evaluation, all the 33 completed projects, and SCCF's role in the climate finance architecture. So let me just start by putting it all in context and where do we stand here. Support under window SCCF-A for adaptation in non-LDC countries has been the main focus of the SCCF, with 83% of the money going into it, with less support under the window SCCF-B, with the remaining 17%. And this was for technology transfer for adaptation. There has been no funding under the window SCCF-C, which was dedicated for mitigation in certain specific sectors such as energy, transport, industry, agriculture, forestry, and waste management, or under the D window for economic diversification in oil exporting countries. Overall, at this stage, it can be said that the SCCF has reached a near dormant phase due to limited new funding since 2014 and few new approvals, although monitoring of ongoing projects, planning and reporting, of course, continue. Despite these communication efforts by the GEF, the evaluation found that donors and stakeholders in general are not very well informed of SCCF's achievements and potential role. Most donors, as we have heard, are not considering funding it at all and have shifted their support to the GCF. However, the SCCF has a unique role in the climate finance architecture. It supports climate change adaptation in non-LDC developing countries. And it is the only global fund with a clear technology transfer window for adaptation, making it truly special, as the name would indicate. And SCCF could test innovative ideas and pilot approaches while acting as an incubator for riskier technologies, playing a risk-reducing role with catalytic potential for further investments and scale up by others. For SCCF to attract new financing and continue its work, it needs to be reformed, repackaged, and re-energized. As observed also by the previous evaluation, SCCF support continues to be relevant to COP guidance, to countries' national priorities, and to the GEF adaptation strategy. The recently approved projects were found to be aligned with COP guidance and decisions, and with the GEF adaptation programming strategy, most strongly with the first two strategic objectives, to reduce vulnerability and increase resilience through innovation and technology transfer for climate change adaptation. These projects also have a strong relevance to national priorities and included a connection to NDCs, NAPs, NAPAs, and other national policies, plans, and programs. SCCF has increased complementarity with other funds in climate finance. Although the guidance and encouragement for complementarity with the GCF is relatively new, 1/3 of the completed SCCF projects have evidence of complementarity with the GCF, and at least 5 projects in Egypt, El Salvador, Mongolia, Zimbabwe, and a regional project in Cook Islands and Tonga have actually led to follow-on funding for scaling up or replication of activities by GCF. For example, in Zimbabwe, the project of scaling up adaptation led to a follow-up GCF project that will use resilience building techniques developed by the SCCF project in 15 districts experiencing similar climate change challenges. 6 out of the 10 recently approved projects either include plans for linkages with GCF-funded projects or detailed potential collaboration with the GCF. Multi-trust fund projects are inherently complementary and have increased during GEF 7 period, with 4 of the 9 projects combining funds from SCCF with the LDCF or the GEF Trust Fund. This shift is in line with a focus in the GEF adaptation strategy on expanding synergies with other GEF focal areas. The SCCF portfolio has been effective and has performed well, and is comparable in that respect with the GEF Trust Fund, with 79% of completed projects rated in the satisfactory range for outcomes. All completed projects developed or introduced new technologies or approaches, such as new software for climate risk monitoring, agricultural and land management approaches, or a novel weather index-based insurance program for farmers. Beyond field-based adaptation benefits, the SCCF portfolio has resulted in strengthened institutional capacity and achieved innovation, legal and regulatory, socio-economic and sustainable financing outcomes. The overall gender performance of the SCCF portfolio has continued to improve. Gender mainstreaming is more integrated into the project design of recently approved projects compared with completed projects, with 7 of the 10 recently approved projects including a gender analysis or plans to develop one in their design, compared with just 9% of the completed projects. The GEF adaptation strategy has put a stronger emphasis on private sector engagement, which is reflected in the portfolio of recently approved projects here too. All recently approved projects have plans to engage private sector stakeholders. These included the identification of specific private sector partners, committed private sector co-financing, and activities aimed at increasing private sector involvement in adaptation through policy work to strengthen the enabling environment. Also, 55% of the completed projects engaged the private sector during implementation, most often participating in project activities as beneficiaries, but also in some cases as project partners. The effectiveness and efficiency of the SCCF continues to be seriously undermined by limited and unpredictable funding, as we know. Availability of resources for programming has restricted the number of projects that can be financed. As we have seen, there have only been 10 new projects approved since the 2017 evaluation. The donor support has stalled since 2014, with only one donor contributing about $21 million to the fund. While it has attracted new partners, the efficiency of the challenge program for adaptation innovation pre-selection model has also been negatively affected by the lack of funding, because as was noted in the previous discussion earlier this morning, less than 3%, 9 out of the 388 projects in the first round of the submitted concepts were selected for PIF preparation as MSPs, while the GEF Secretariat invested quite some time and effort in the pre-selection model. It is, of course, still at an early stage, and we will have to see how the MSP approval process and implementation goes. IEO's recent evaluation of MSPs shows that there is room for improvement in the efficiency of the approval and implementation of the MSPs as well. Regarding sustainability, 75% of the completed projects had outcomes that were considered likely to be sustained, a figure that compares favorably to the 63% for GEF Trust Fund projects. Factors that affect outcome sustainability are similar to the GEF Trust Fund and other organizations, of course, as well. For the SCCF, the most cited contributing factors include adaptive management, effective coordination between executing partners, strong project design, and effective stakeholder engagement. Hindering factors for the 25% and some components include weak preparation and readiness for project closure, inadequate monitoring and evaluation, failure to expected co-financing to materialize, or a lack of continued and predictable funding and weak project management in some cases. Few projects cited context-related factors, and most of those were hindering, such as poor infrastructure, natural disasters, and change in national government. Okay, so based on the evidence we collected of the relevance, the use of the fund's windows, or lack thereof, and the resources available to the fund, we have made a bold recommendation for consideration until there is more funding. This recommendation is really for the entire partnership. As a reminder, we are not the GEF Secretariat Evaluation Office, but the whole GEF Independent Evaluation Office. So the recommendation reads, the GEF Secretariat should acknowledge the semi-dormant state of the SCCF, and together with the key and emerging donors and stakeholders, develop a proactive action plan to revitalize the fund, which includes removing windows C and D, which have been evidently unattractive to donors because no money has been channeled through them. Targeting support under window SCCF-A towards non-LDCs and particularly SIDS, and refocusing the fund towards technology transfer and innovation in adaptation in non-LDCs in window SCCF-B. In doing so, the Secretariat should actively articulate and communicate the SCCF's niche and brand, its focus and distinctive roles in the climate finance architecture. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, for this presentation. Now I would like to invite Gustavo Fonseca and Sonja to present the management response. Over to you.
Thank you, Carlos Manuel, and good time of day to everyone. Together with Gustavo, and on behalf of the LDCF SCCF team, it is my pleasure to introduce the management response on the program evaluation of the SCCF. As you have seen, this management response is also adopting the same format as our management responses to the evaluations of the GEF Trust Fund. In line with the recommendation of the Governance Working Group, the findings of the IEO peer review report, and the many general calls from council members to have more detailed and analytical management responses to all IEO evaluations. And this will indeed be the mode we will continue to adopt for all future evaluations relevant to the LDCF and the SCCF. While this report is of course not a part of the OPS 7, which focuses only on the GEF Trust Fund, this report, together with the LDCF evaluation that came 1 year ago to the 29th LDCF SCCF Council, has also been a part of our intensified engagement with the Independent Evaluation Office over the last 2 years. We would therefore like to thank the IEO for this ongoing productive and collegial engagement, and we very much look forward to continuing to work closely together. With that, I will turn over to Gustavo to highlight the key points of our response to this report. Gustavo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel. Thank you very much, Sonja, for these introductory remarks. I would first like to really thank the IEO for the great work of the program evaluation of the SCCF. The Secretariat appreciates the many positive conclusions about the SCCF that we just heard from Juha's presentation, including its relevance to the guidance from the Conference of the Party to the UNFCCC, and also for its support to national priorities, enhancing complementarity with other funds, and its overall effectiveness and performance, as Juha mentioned in his last couple of slides. The Secretariat also values the findings about the recent stronger emphasis of the SCCF on the private sector and its success in attracting new partners to the GEF and addressing a gap that has not been filled by other funds in the adaptation realm through the Challenge Program for Adaptation Innovation. On the IEO recommendation, we agree that the Secretariat should articulate and communicate the SCCF's niche and brand its focus and distinctive roles in the climate finance architecture. The Secretariat has actually been actively doing so, as you heard in Chiz's earlier presentations during this council meeting. The Secretariat presented a draft GEF programming strategy on adaptation to climate change for the LDCF and SCCF, and the operational improvements for the July 2022 and June 2026 period during the first consultation meeting in October 19 of 2021, as Chiz reported. The strategy proposes an SCCF focus on small island developing states, the SIDS, and technology transfer and innovation in alignment with the IEO recommendation. The draft strategy also lays out options on how to optimize the SCCF. Regarding the core recommendation that the GEF should acknowledge the semi-dormant state of the SCCF, we believe that the term semi-dormant is not the most appropriate in the SCCF context, as it could be misinterpreted as the fund having unofficially stopped operation, when in fact the SCCF continues to operate with an active portfolio, and the council has regularly been updated on the resource constraint. As importantly, a new strategy for SCCF is currently being discussed with donors, recipients, and stakeholders. The Secretariat does not join the IEO recommendation about the removal of the windows SCCF-C and SCCF-D, as it states that the removal of these windows, and I will quote here, would be the only way forward for the SCCF. Such an action is not really possible in absence of a UNFCCC COP decision, and the prerogative thus rests with the convention. Furthermore, the Secretariat has not received any indication that the existence of these windows has in any way affected the willingness of donors to support the SCCF in the past. In other words, the mere existence of these two windows did not preclude donors from contributing in the past. The Secretariat has also included in the management response a number of observations on aspects that seem to have been perhaps overlooked. The GEF Secretariat would like to recognize the broader climate context, climate finance context within which the SCCF has been operating. The Secretariat will continue to highlight the SCCF as an avenue to meet climate finance commitments for the Paris Agreement, including the recent agreement at COP26 to at least double climate change adaptation finance, as many council members have stated here this morning. COP26 guidance to the GEF encourages additional voluntary contributions to the SCCF to support adaptation and technology transfer. The GEF Secretariat will implement the actionable aspects of the IEO recommendation and keep the LDCF and the SCCF Council updated on the progress. With this, I thank you and revert back to you, Carlos Manuel.
Thanks to both Sonja and Gustavo for presenting the management response. I will now would like to open the floor for questions and comments from Council. As usual, William will be helping us with the list of speakers. William, over to you. Thanks.
Thank you. The floor is open. Gabriela, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. And thanks to the IEO for the presentation of the evaluation and the GEF Secretariat for the management response. The evaluation in our view shows quite clearly the good results which have been achieved, especially the high rating of sustainability significantly above the GEF Trust Fund is very encouraging to see. We're pleased about that. We do, however, share some of the factual concerns that the GEFSEC has highlighted, in particular in relation to the recommendation with the 2 windows, since this decision cannot be taken to remove these 2 windows, cannot be taken by the Council. This is a COP guidance decision in our understanding, and I think that's also what's highlighted in the management response. We would also like to thank the Secretariat very much for their management response, which we fully support. But we wanted to also highlight one element in the conclusion. You ask for stronger interaction with the IEO on the evaluations. We do understand that, but we also want to caution and underline the importance of the independence of the IEO. And that's why we also put up the procedures the way they are now. You get the chance to respond to the IEO evaluation and say whether you see factual errors or disagree with recommendations, and then Council can decide whether or not to endorse that management response. And we simply take note of what has been produced by the IEO. So I think we should keep it that way. Nevertheless, yes, we also understand your response to the multiple elements that you have highlighted in your management response, and we agree to that. Thank you so much, and thanks again to the IEO for their great work on the evaluation.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Sano, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, we appreciate the presentation from IEO, and also we appreciate the support from the Secretariat, how the collaboration and how the connectivity looks like. This is a good example. Thank you very much. Just we have one question to IEO. So we have been talking about the monitoring. So is there any possibility that IEO can develop this monitoring toolkit, and that will be also using later when you do the evaluation? Because when every project are monitored by the country level and annually they produce the report, and then it would be very convenient for the IEO when they go for evaluation. So the possibility to see that, to develop any toolkit for them, and also capacity for building for the government mainly, because they will be the lead at each country of this monitoring and monitoring, where civil society, private sector, they will be adding value, but government will be the taking leadership. So we want to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sano. Feturi, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. Thank the IEO for the evaluation and also for the management response. We note that the overall purpose of the evaluation is to provide Council with evaluative evidence of the relevance, complementarity, effectiveness, and sustainability of the SCCF, despite the absence of any new pledges and receiving little attention from its traditional donor countries. Pushing for the SCCF restructuring and its rebranding, we support the GEF to continue doing a clearer communication, publishing it as a distinct fund, focusing towards technology transfer and innovation in adaptation. There are already various funds on climate change, which attracted early interest, largely because they were established with independent governance structures that met high levels of transparency and inclusiveness and could channel finance quickly to projects suited to national circumstances that were aligned with national priorities as well. At the same time, many developing countries are beginning to incorporate climate risk into their national physical frameworks and monitoring climate-related expenditure. We hope that GEF could look further into the matter that can set them apart from other climate change funding facilities. We encourage the Secretariat to still prioritize the development of mechanisms to ensure financing for the fund, that the GEF Secretariat should articulate and publicly communicate SCCF's needs within the global adaptation finance landscape, including an explicit statement regarding its relation with and complementarity to the GCF. The two SCCF projects in the Philippines, such as the scaling up risk transfer mechanisms for climate vulnerable agricultural-based communities and the Philippines Climate Change Adaptation Project, have demonstrated distinct technology transfer and innovation for adaptation, wherein SCCF's needs, brand, and distinctive roles in the climate finance architecture can be articulated and communicated. They are also strongly aligned to GEF's adaptation strategic objectives, especially on vulnerability reduction and the strengthening of institutional and technical capacities. These two have adopted coping strategies and new technologies such as improved farming practices to cope better with climate variability and change and climate risk transfer mechanisms and productivity enhancement measures.
Claude quiere que volvamos a poner el 41.
Sorry, William?
Nothing did. Please go ahead.
Yeah, these kinds of projects should be documented and shared as we continue to liaise with donors, highlighting these milestones on integrating climate change adaptation into relevant policies, plans, and associated process. Finally, we encourage the Secretariat to reassess, reevaluate, and recognize the broader climate finance context within which the SCCF has been severely unfunded in recent years, so we can make concrete options and further steps in addressing the concerns of our donors and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annette, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the detailed evaluation of the SCCF and the transparent presentation of the findings, as well as the management response to the evaluation. Germany takes note of the evaluation report as it's very instructive for us. And we take particular note of the need to refocus and repurpose the SCCF, and in order to ensure that funding becomes more predictable. We therefore would like to ask the GEF Secretariat to come up with a concrete variety of options, as you're already working on that, we know, and respective timelines by when a decision must be taken. We'd particularly be interested in options on focusing on the SIDS countries, and would very much welcome that. We further kindly request that the GEF Secretariat present specific information about the prospective role of the SCCF and which gap in the international climate finance architecture the Secretariat intends to close with the repurposed SCCF. Underlining that with, or supporting that with data and would be very welcome. An outline on how this SCCF will increase complementarity and collaboration with other climate funds, including the GCF and the AF, would additionally be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Annette. That ends the list of speakers. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, William, and thanks, council members, for your questions and comments. Now I will invite Juha or Anna, and then Gustavo or Sonja to respond to the questions or react to the comments that was just made. Over to you, Juha.
Thank you, Carlos Manuel, and thank you, everybody, for your comments. Indeed, I would just like to reiterate, I think that what Gabriela mentioned about the process, I think is exactly right. In the current process, it is the Secretariat's prerogative to consider our recommendations and come up with a plan of action on how to address them, and the council can make decisions on them. But it is still important to maintain the independence of the IEO in providing our analytical inputs here. And in this case, it works perfectly well, and we acknowledge the process working. I think the only direct question to us was from Sano regarding whether IEO could develop a toolkit for monitoring and provide capacity building for countries to ensure that everybody is monitoring the same things, same way. And I fully agree that this is very important, and we, of course, when we do evaluations, we rely on solid monitoring data. However, practically it will be difficult given that we are a unit of 17 individuals sitting in Washington, D.C. So it would be very difficult for us to provide capacity building for countries to do this kind of a work. And we have a division of labor in the system, between monitoring being the management responsibility between GEF Secretariat and the agencies, and our role being more on the evaluation side or on the evaluation side. However, that is an area where we are happy to collaborate and coordinate and communicate with the management to ensure that appropriate arrangements are put in place. I think the rest of the comments and questions, if I'm not mistaken, were for the management, unless Anna, did you have anything to add at this stage?
Thank you, Juha. No, I have nothing to add.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Juha. Thanks, Anna. So I'll pass it over to Gustavo or Sonja.
Thank you, Carlos Manuel, and thanks for the comments that we received, and thanks for the support to the management response. First of all, I would like to just appreciate and recognize the steadfast support by Switzerland to the SCCF, and thanks, Gabriela, for all the interest and the work that Switzerland has been dedicating to sharpen this fund. I think it's an important fund for the GEF, and particularly in light of all that was said here in terms of as we develop the new strategy, we focus on the gaps that the fund will going forward address, as well as looking to becoming another specialized fund that address the context of a particular set of countries, just like we have the LDCF, which is the only LDC dedicated fund. We could have a similar vision for the SIDS countries, and also for innovation on private sector engagement through the SCCF, which is something that it's already trailblazing in a lot of ways. So there are, I think, important aspects, and thanks for Ambassador Feturi's many very, very well-noted suggestions on how to articulate the focus and the niche of the SCCF in the new strategy along several dimensions that you have very, very ably articulated. The same goes for the comments from Annette on better defining as we move on with the strategy. And I think Chiz presented a timeline for the further development of the not only the SCCF, but also the LDCF strategy for the GEF 8 cycle. And we plan to initiate work with the GEF Trust Fund and the GEF 8 and the 2 adaptation funds at the same time with refreshed strategies. So that would be the timeline, and we will definitely present and refine options for a better articulation of the SCCF for the period of 2022 to 2026. Let me see if I forgot anything. We'll, of course, continue to work on the complementarity with other funds, including the GCF. And thanks, Ambassador Feturi, for highlighting a few examples of that, which, again, we will take into consideration as we develop this strategy further. With this, I think I turn it back to you, Carlos Manuel.
Thank you, Gustavo. Sonja, any comments on your side?
Just one, Carlos Manuel, just to remind our council members that just like with the recommendations that are made by the IEO to the GEF Trust Fund, the recommendations of the evaluations relevant to the LDCF and the SCCF are tracked through the IEO's management action record. So this is not the last time you will hear about the recommendations and our responses. Our progress on that will come to you in due time through the IEO's formal process. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonja. Thanks, Johanna, Gustavo, for your reactions and having completed the responses. I would like to invite Council to adopt the draft decision that is included in document GF/LDCF SCCF 31/5. I see no objections to these decisions, so decisions approved. Thank you so much. Now we move over to the last couple of agenda items with regards to the 31st Council meeting of LDCF, SCCF, other businesses, and joint summary of the co-chair. I got the pleasure to ask to my co-chair, Mete, to lead these 2 agenda items. Mete, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel. Regarding agenda item 8, other businesses, we did not have anyone raising issues at the start of the meeting, but I would like to hear if there are any council members that would like to raise an issue now. I cannot see any requests for the floor. Thank you. Then we are closing this agenda item and moving on to agenda item 9, the joint summary of the co-chairs for the LDCF SCCF meeting. And you will receive the joint summary of the co-chairs of this meeting by email in the next few minutes during the approval of the GEF Council summary. So we hope that you will have time to review that, and we will come back to the adoption of the summary of the co-chairs after the next few agenda items on the GEF Council meeting. So then I'm handing it back to you, Carlos Manuel, to reopen the 61st GEF Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mette, and thanks everybody. With this, we conclude the 31st council meeting of the LDCF SCCF. And as Mette indicated, we will resume our 61st GEF council meeting. And I will begin addressing some pending issues and some pending requests from council. Our first issue is under agenda item number 4 on the third-party review on UNDP. First, third-party assessment report. We want to have everybody clear with regards to the decision that we took. So I will ask William to give us a very brief introduction to this topic and to explain our council members what is the objective to bring it here once more. William, over to you.
Thank you, Matt, very much. Very briefly, we did discuss, the council did discuss this draft decision, and it was distributed last night because there was a small amendment introduced, a few words added, and a little Roman 4. If you look at the, it says, request UNDP to provide an updated self-assessment by June 30, 2022, and the Secretariat to commission an independent third-party review of that assessment. And here are the new words, focused on assessing implementation progress, to be presented to the Council at its 63rd meeting in December 2022. This was distributed last night by email, so everybody could have it in advance. And it's just to make sure that publicly we've done the amendment that was requested. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, William, for the explanation. And I will ask Council if there is any objection to this text. Do we have any speaker, William?
No, I don't see any speakers.
Okay, so I see no objections. We adopt this decision. Thank you so much, William. Now we turn to item number 11 on the agenda on the co-chair arrangement. A revised version of the decision was sent yesterday by email. William, can you be so kind again and explain us a little bit on this communication that we sent last night?
Yes, certainly. You will recall that while we discussed this, while the council discussed this item, Gabriela made a few proposals that we requested should be sent by email, which she did. Thank you very much. And we discussed them. And so this is the final version. It essentially, first thing Gabriela had proposed was that the decision of the working group that was requested in the first paragraph of this decision would come early before the 62nd meeting. But that was only necessary if the assembly was going to be back-to-back with a 62nd meeting. Since they have now been separated and the assembly will necessarily take place later on in the year, the recommendations of the working group can be considered directly at its 62nd meeting. So essentially, there's no change in that paragraph. And then we added a more substantive second paragraph that was proposed and accepted by a number of you and supported by a number of council members that says that the council further decides to extend the current pilot co-chairing arrangement until its 63rd council meeting in December 22. So essentially all of next year. And
thanks, William.
Thank you.
Thanks, William, for your explanation. So I will ask council if there is any objections to adopt this decision. I don't see any objections, so decision adopted. Thank you so much. So now we move over back to other businesses where some questions remain to be answered. I think that there were 4 questions and then we need to have one decision. The first question came from Sano on participation of a CSO network and working groups on governance and observers having the possibility to add items to the agenda. William will help us answering that question.
Thank you very much. So on the first one, which was the possibility of the CSO network being a member of the working group on governance, the answer is no, because the working group is made up of council members or alternates. But you know, that group can invite anybody to participate. So if they wish, they can invite other council members, they can invite focal points, they can invite the CSO network and any other stakeholder that they think can make a contribution to their work. So we'll leave that decision to them. And the second one was, can observers have the possibility of adding items to the agenda? Rule 25, paragraph 25 of the rules of procedure says that members, that is council members, may add items to the agenda. And if they want to do that, they have to do it at least 14 days before the meeting so that the Secretariat can send out a revised agenda. This extends to other business. And the items under other business normally do not require discussion. They are of an informative nature or declarative nature. And sometimes we've added a decision on dates, things like that, that don't require substantive discussion. But in any case, the rules of procedure, for the time being, at least until they are changed, say that it is the members of the council who can add items to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Thank you so much. And thanks for being able to clarify these questions coming from the CSO network. The second pending question was made yesterday by France with regards to arrangements for the third and fourth replacement, and I can address this one by saying that we have planned having our third replacement meeting in Switzerland, and we already had contacted the WTO for using their premises facility to organize the event. We received positive feedback from them. Of course, our objective is to have our first in-person replacement meeting, as the 2 previous ones were the virtual meetings. And unfortunately, the ministerial meeting of WTO happening last week was canceled. CVD in Switzerland. CVD's meeting was also canceled. And we have a pending conversation with WTO later, I would say next morning and next week, with regards to assessing the real possibilities to organize the event. Basically, they have told us that we need to wait and see until the first days of January, so we can have a better understanding of the real possibilities. In the meantime, as you all know, we did a survey about where to do it, and we received very positive feedback from all of you. So thank you so much for helping us with the survey. In that survey, Washington is also another important option. And we will consider Washington if our first choice to organize it in Switzerland is impossible. We know how important it is to organize a in-person and even a hybrid session for the third replacement meeting, and we'll pursue that objective. So we will be providing information to all donors and participants to the replacement process in the early days of January. I would like to thank Gabriela for her support and her guidance. on the organization of this event, and also, of course, WTO, who has been very helpful. But still, we cannot confirm where and the nature of or modality of the third replenishment meeting. From our side, the Secretariat, we understand very clearly that we need to generate the conditions for a very successful replenishment meeting. With regards to the fourth and last replenishment meeting, we only have the dates. The dates are going to be on the 6th, from the 6th to the 8th of April. This is this is before UNCCD COP and CBD COP, which always put us a little bit of a challenge, because always extremely useful to have guidance and to see the outcomes of the COP as we work ourselves within the replenishment. We haven't begun assessing possibilities of sites, but we already have in mind two countries where we can organize that last replenishment meeting. And in proper time, we will be communicating the sites as we agree with the host country. So these are what I can say at this point with regards to the French inquiries with regards to the replenishment meeting. The third question is also a consultation that came from CSO with regards for a need to the decision by mail for an issue to be discussed at the CSO consultation. So Francois can help us answering that question. Francois, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. We suggest that following consultations that we will run with the CSO network as usual, we will come back to you in writing between sessions with the suggestions of theme to be used at the next council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Francois, for that. And with this, our next pending item has to do with the election of the co-chair for 2022. We now turn to the issue of appointing the elected co-chair for the year 2022. This is a result of decision 30/2021 just adopted that says that the council further decides to extend the current pilot co-chairing arrangement until the 63rd council meeting in December 22. With this, I would like to open the floor for nominations. William will help us with the list of the speakers.
Thank you. Miguel from Chile has the floor.
Thank you very much, William. Dear colleagues, on behalf of the constituency formed by Argentina, Bolivia, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and Chile, I have the pleasure and honor to nominate Ambassador Feturi Elisaya of Samoa, Council Member for the Pacific Islands constituency, as co-chair for the next period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John from Canada.
Colleagues. Following on our colleague from Chile, I have the pleasure to second the nomination of a Pacific Islander to be our co-chair for 2022. And I also note that it's been a while since we've had someone from Samoa, 2 decades, in fact. And given what we need to do over the next decade, it's good to start the decade right. Well, actually, it was Mete already, but it would be good to have a Samoan to carry us through 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the list of speakers.
Okay, I see no other nominations. Thanks to Miguel and to Tom. And I don't see any objections. So let me congratulate Ambassador Fituri Elisaya as the new elected co-chair by acclamation. Congratulations, Ambassador. We look forward to working with you next year. So Ambassador Elisaya is from Samoa. He's a council member of the constituency of Cook Islands, Fiji, Indonesia, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, Niue, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Timor Leste, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. Ambassador, very, very happy to have you. I would like to give you the floor, please.
Well, moments like this come rarely, and sometimes if you are lost for words, it's because the heart feels the truth. I think it would be remiss of me if I don't place on record the deepest appreciation of my constituency for the vote of confidence and the vote of support in electing one of its members to be the co-chair of the council for 2022. This is a new beginning for us, and coming from a constituency that has 17 members. I think it's a real privilege and an honor. And all we can say is that, thank you for, I want to thank Miguel from Chile for the nomination, and also Tom for seconding the nomination. I just want to reassure the forum that we all want to be part of the solution. And given the many challenges that continue to face the world, and especially those in the front line of the impacts of climate change, I think we have to be all part of the solution. And I think we need to focus on the silver lining in the cloud, and we can bring our strength so that together we have a shared responsibility. And our constituencies have entrusted us for this major task. And I think it's important that we work together as a family, as a global family, because only then, with many hands, it makes light work. So I just want to say thank you so much for the honor and the privilege, and for the support and confidence. And we hope that we can reward your confidence come next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And the pleasure, it is on our side. We feel honored and delighted, and we look forward to work together. But also, this is a great opportunity to me to thank Mette, my co-chair, who this will be her last task as co-chair. Mette, thank you so much for the hard work. The work that the co-chair does not only happens 15 days before the council meeting and a week after the council meeting. It's a year-round, almost 24/7 work, and it was inspiring, delightful, super efficient to work with Mette and Lauren. I want to thank you so much on a personal base as the CEO and chairperson of the GEF for the great work that you both did with us, and we will. I will carry this experience very, very close to my heart as my real first engagement as the CEO of the GEF. So Mette, I thank you so much for your leadership, your wisdom, your capacity to deliver and guide us on the many different complexities that that a council like this does us. And just definitely, as Ambassador Fituri says, this is a big family. We are all in the same page ideologically. We are all on the same page in terms of our commitment to provide global environmental benefits. And we understand the sense of urgency that we got under our hands. We are here to deliver, and there is extremely high expectations on us. So, Mette, thank you so much. I would like to offer you the floor, Mette.
Thank you so much, Carlos Manuel. And I must say that the pleasure is all on our side. It has been a privilege to work with you. And I would also like to ask my colleague, Lauren Gisnos, to put on her camera so that everyone can see her, which I usually refer to as my team. She has been following and working so hard, and it has been a pleasure to do this together, Lauren. And thank you to Carlos Manuel and the team, the secretariat, and all for all your support. It's been a really great experience. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Matt.
Can I just congratulate also Ambassador Elisaya with the being the new co-chair for 2022. As a step on the way, I would like to offer that we can, if you are interested, we could put our heads together and we can share our lessons learned with you and your new team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And please, I would like everybody to join me giving a big hand to Mette, Lauren, and Ambassador Fituri for their job. Thank you so much. Okay, thanks. Now, having elected the new co-chair, let me move over to agenda item number 15, which is a summary of the co-chairs of the GEF Council. Mette, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel. And back to business then, agenda item 15. A summary of the co-chair was sent to you last night, and an update has been sent out just now with 2 paragraphs deleted that was redundant, and the inclusion of the decision of the co-chair. And please follow this last version as we go through the adoption of the summary of the co-chairs. I will now go through the co-chair summary and invite you to adopt para by para, or in some cases paragraphs together as a group. And I do now invite the council to adopt the first part of the co-chair summary, starting with opening of the meeting and the paragraphs 1 to 6. No, 1 to 5, I think it's right. 1 to 5, excuse me. If you have any comments or questions, please announce your name in the chat. I see no names. Thank you very much. We will then move on to the approval of paragraph number 7. I'm getting confused here. The decision number 6, the decision 25/2021. I see no objection. William, I don't think you are muted. Thank you very much. We will now go to the approval of paragraph number 7. I see no objection. Thank you very much. We will now go to paragraph number 8 that has several letters under it, and we will approve it together. I invite you to approve para 8. I see no objection. Thank you. Now we will look at paragraph 9 regarding decision 27/2021. I invite you to approve this para. Thank you. We move on to decision 28/2021 and the paragraphs 10 to 40. This is the work program. I invite you to approve this part of the co-chair summary. I see no objection and I thank you very much. We go to decision 29/2021 and paragraph 41. I invite you to approve this para. Thank you. And we move on to decision 30/2021 and paragraph 42. I invite you to, and paragraph 43. Yeah, thank you. No objection. If I'm going too quick, just let me know. Then we go to decision 31/2021 and we will approve paragraph 44. Thank you. So approved. We go to decision 32/2021 and I invite you to approve paragraph 45. Thank you. We move to decision 33/2021 and invite you to approve paragraph 46 and 47. Thank you very much. Then we go to decision 34/2021 and I invite you to approve decision the paragraph 48. Thank you. And we go to decision 35/2021 and I invite you to approve para 49. Thank you. And we go to decision 36/2021 and para 50. Thank you very much. We are soon at the end. And then finally, I invite you to approve paragraph 51, which is under decision 37/2021. Thank you so much. So the co-chair summary is approved. Then we will go back to the 30. Okay, just give me 1 second so I can have the joint summary of the LDCF, SCCF co-chair summary. We need to print it before I can go through it. So if you give me 1 minute. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your patience. My team was just working very hard. So now we are into the LDCF SCCF Council meeting. And resumes this, and we'll go to agenda item 9, the joint summary of the co-chair, and I invite you to adopt the joint summary para by para that we just did for the GEF Council. I invite you to adopt the first part of the summary, paragraph 1, 2, and 3. I see no request for the floor. Thank you very much. Then I invite you to approve the paragraphs related to the work program for the least developed countries fund, and that is the para 4, 5, 6, and 7. I see no request for the floor, so thank you. Then I invite you to approve paragraph 8 under decision LDCF SCCF 8 for 2021. Thank you. And paragraph 9 under decision LDCF SCCF 9 2021. Thank you very much. And then I invite you to adopt paragraph 10. Thank you. And I invite you to adopt the 2 last paras of this joint co-chair summary, paragraph 11 and 12. There is tables to this joint summary, and this has been referred to in the paragraphs that we have adopted. So we have now together adopted the joint summary of the co-chair summary for the LDCF SCCF meeting. Thank you very much. Then I have the pleasure of handing the word back to you, Carlos Manuel.
Thank you so much for this, Mete, and with this decision of approving the joint summaries of the co-chairs presentation and approval, we are getting to the end of our 61st GEF Council meeting, and we will enter our last but not least agenda item, which is agenda item number 16, which is the celebration of the GEF 30th anniversary. I will ask William to do the proper introductions on this agenda item. William, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos Manuel. I'm delighted and honored to introduce this celebration as one of the original negotiators of the instrument and very early council members. It's wonderful to see how this institution has developed and grown and developed into a real family. There have been hundreds of people who have contributed to this, of course, starting perhaps with those who were in the original very tiny secretariat, but also in the agencies that have grown over time. So many focal points, council members, CSO participants, and a broad range of stakeholders that make the GEF so special and so different in the international arena. So with those words, I just like to say that we are opening this celebration and ask Nico then to play the first opening video.
Before going there, William, also I would like to say that to our council members and dear friends that in normal times we'll most probably organize a beautiful event, a big gala with a great venue where we all will go with fancy dresses, great dinner, great speeches, and yes, of course, we'll be happily dancing tropical rhythms and musics. But well, that is not possible. And we have organized this small but very special event to celebrate something that is extremely important, And my thanks to everybody who is here. My thanks to everybody who has been here, and we prepare this event, which I hope that we can enjoy. Nico, over to you. Thank you so much. It is evident that day by day and week by week, the Earth is demonstrating that we are really pushing beyond tolerable limits. We see heat waves in the Arctic, hurricanes, strong hurricanes in the tropics, wildfires from all the way from Chile to California. We see floods from Germany all the way to Australia. We see Madagascar with droughts, as well as in the Middle East, and more and more. And I think that the message that Mother Nature is sending us is clear and strong. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 pandemic should make us reflect on this unfunctional, dysfunctional relationship within the human systems and nature. So this overlapping crisis is definitely systemic, arising from an economic model that aims for unlimited growth, focuses on individual prosperity, and fails to recognize the important planetary boundaries. So solving these, all of these, demands an integrated approach based on, yes, political coherence and unprecedented alignment of all public and private investment within multilateral environmental agreements that can bring about transformative system change. The pandemic has shown that massive changes in human, government, and business behavior can happen very quickly. It offers a once-in-a-lifetime chance to build back better by conserving and restoring the world's global commons, both at the sea and also on the land. It tells us that a blue-green recovery would bring us prosperity and, very important, resilience. So protecting nature, on which half of the world GDP depends, will yield benefits that exceeds costs at least fivefold, according to many recent studies and reports. Indeed, a transition to a nature-positive economy can create up to 10 trillion in annual business value, together with almost 400 million jobs by 2030. The Global Environment Facility is well placed to help catalyze this transformational when we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. Since 1991, it has grown from being a small pilot program into the largest and most experienced multilateral fund dedicated to address environmental threats and to protect the planet. As you know, the GEF has provided more than $21 billion in grants and mobilized more than 120 billion in co-financing for more than 5,000 projects in 170 countries. So the GEF is the only entity with a mandate embracing all phases of a healthy environment. We work on biodiversity, climate change, land degradation, international waters, chemicals, and waste. And it has a strong, diverse, growing, and unique network of partners, including 184 governments, 18 implementing agencies, and over 500 civil society organizations, international bodies, funds, and more recently, the business sector from every diversity of the private sector. So the GEF has been transformational, and I'm a good, I'm a good example of that. I was involved in implementing the first GEF in Costa Rica, my hometown, in the late 90s and mid to late 1990s, where I was guiding a team to build visitor centers and trails and infrastructure in national park. It was my first experience with the GEF. And that was probably back then one of the most important projects that Costa Rica did with GEF funding. My last engagement in designing and implementing a GEF project was in 2018, when I was the Minister of Environment of Costa Rica, and the project that I worked is called Transition Towards a Green Economy. So we went in Costa Rica from using GEF resources, from building small infrastructure in a national park, to use the resources of the GEF to help my country do system change in the economic system. This is what has happened during the last 30 years. It's one of the first, definitely the GEF is one of the first organizations to understand that we must focus on the drivers of environmental degradation rather than just the symptoms or defects. So that is why all the GEF projects now aim at the system change. Central to this approach are the growing number of integrated programs focusing on tackling the drivers of environmental destruction and advancing in transformational change across the full spectrum of our mandate. So the GEF has a vital role in the global efforts to make the world more nature positive, carbon neutral, and pollution free by 2030. These are very ambitious goals, but as the GEF enters its fourth decade, we are better placed than ever to work with our partners to make them a reality. The GEF is ready to play the Premier League of human prosperity. Thank you so much. Very happy to open this celebration of our 30th anniversary. With this, I would like to announce that today we will be launching a very important publication called Reflecting on the 30 Years of the GEF. This publication contains the voices from across the large GEF partnership with close to 100 testimony and messages from everybody that has in the past worked with us, that is working with us today. I want to acknowledge the many contributions from many of you council members into this publication, people from the conventions, the agency, and the partners. And it also includes a very important message from the UN Secretary General. I would like now to ask Nico to show us the publication. Nico, please. Thanks so much, Nico, for for presenting a quick overview of the publication. Again, it's a fabulous publication that we'll be sharing with everybody. Well, this is the moment for me to offer the floor to Mete to ask her for her reflections. Mete, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel. As the elected co-chair, Norway would, on behalf of our constituency, Denmark, Latvia, and Lithuania, like to congratulate the GEF with its 30th anniversary. Having one financial mechanism to implement the Rio Conventions has proven to be a successful measure. And GEF shall more than anything be measured for its contribution to delivering on the targets of the conventions, the Paris Agreement, new framework for biodiversity, land degradation, and Stockholm and Minamata conventions. Throughout its 30 years of existence, the GEF has been essential in putting in place legislation, mapping the environmental status of partner countries, and providing capacity building. We would like to thank the GEF for being a dedicated funding mechanism to the key multilateral environmental agreements and translating decisions taken at the Conference of the Parties into results on the ground in partner countries. By the next 30 years, we will have passed the notable global deadlines of both 2030 and 2050, and there is a lot of work to be done before then, especially in fully getting it right in terms of investing in solutions for nature and working at a truly transformative level. The GEF is not only an efficient mechanism for delivering global environmental benefits, but it is also a well-functioning partnership with experienced agencies, dedicated operational focal point, a well-established secretariat, a dynamic and constructive council. And these are qualities that could inspire also other funds. On the occasion of its 30th anniversary, we would like to congratulate the GEF for being a pioneer in environmental and climate financing, for continuously reinventing itself by focusing on more thematic integration, for bringing in the private sector as a key partner, and for focusing on innovative solutions. We wish the GEF a successful continuation and look forward to shaping together the future of our partnership. Thank you very much. And now it says in my notes that I should. The GEF has produced a video with the messages from across the GEF community. It includes former CEOs, staff, council members, and the heads of the 3 original implementing agencies. May I ask you, Nico, to play the video? Thank you.
Today, the issues facing GEF are more challenging and relevant than ever. The COVID-19 pandemic, along with climate change and biodiversity loss, are underscoring the urgent need for increased development assistance and support for global public goods. The World Bank is a founding member of the GEF, providing many of the important functions that help support GEF. Together, we have helped countries to strengthen the conservation and sustainable use of natural resources, increase energy efficiency and renewables, and build the resilience of vulnerable communities to climate change. The GEF investments have had transformational impacts for people and the planet. One example is the Sahel and West Africa program in 12 countries that are highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. GEF grants supported financing for IDA to restore degraded lands, shore up food supply, and boost the livelihoods and resilience of more than 19 million people. GEF-supported investments in the Sahel program are also playing an important role in strengthening adaptation. With GEF support, the World Bank and IFC are working with cities around the world to integrate carbon reduction and resilience into urban planning. I've been glad to see a strong global consensus form on the necessity of integrating climate and development. To be successful, the world community is fully engaged in identifying transformational projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and funding them with a growing pool of grants from private foundations and carbon offsets. We also need to increase funding for adaptation. In our climate change action plan, we're committed to providing at least half of our climate finance for adaptation, which is particularly important for low-income countries. We look forward to our continued partnership with the GEF as we build global efforts toward a green, resilient, and inclusive future for all.
30 years ago, the Global Environment Facility was established to tackle the world's most complex environmental challenges. And today, as we gather after COP26, we know that the Glasgow Climate Pact has kept 1.5 alive, but only just. We have 8 years to halve emissions, to convert climate promises into action, to ensure that finance flows protect and restore the Earth, and to transform our societies and economies. This is a task for us all. And quite simply, we can't get there without the Global Environment Facility. So I thank our friends at the GEF for all that you do to protect people and planet. And I look forward to working together to seeing how we can stretch even further to realize that ambition of stabilizing the climate, of ending biodiversity loss, and of overcoming pollution and waste.
CEO and Chairperson of the Global Environment Facility, my dear friend and colleague Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, members of the Council, dear friends and colleagues. I'm delighted to join you for truly a landmark occasion, the 30th anniversary of the Global Environment Facility. What started as a pilot program on the eve of the Rio Earth Summit has developed into this unique partnership that now unites 184 countries, 18 partner agencies, and a growing network of civil society and private sector actors. It is now the largest multilateral source of funds for environmental action in developing countries and provides approximately $1 billion per year for action across key areas including sustainable cities, forests, land use, and the illegal wildlife trade, just to mention a few areas in which we have accompanied countries in their work. UNDP is proud to be a founding partner of the Global Environment Facility, not least because together we have achieved some remarkable results. With this support, over 500,000 farmers have, for instance, benefited from improved food security and more resilient livelihoods. And UNDP's partnership with the GEF on the establishment of the Small Grants Program is yet another example of something quite unique in the landscape of funding and support for local, community and civil society actions. Over 130 countries, including least developed countries, small island developing states, and countries in fragile contexts, are assisted today by UNDP to access critical GEF resources and enabling us to accompany them on the journey of applying them. Yet, the need to tackle our planet's environmental challenges has never been more urgent. The next 30 years must see the world deliver on a range of key objectives and targets. That includes taking decisive climate action, transforming our food systems, and propelling a clean energy transition, and ultimately moving us into a green economy of the future. As we aim for the global goals, we must chart a new course towards a sustainable, equitable, livable, and climate resilient future that is in balance with nature and our environment. To get there, the United Nations family as a whole will continue to rely on the bold vision, the unwavering commitment, and ceaseless energy of our friends and colleagues who come together under the umbrella of the Global Environment Facility. At UNDP, we thank you for your collective efforts, and we look forward to working together in these crucial years ahead to build that world with people and planet in equilibrium, each one of us contributing as best as we can to this objective. Thank you and happy anniversary.
There was enough confidence in me to ask me to come up with the final shape of the facility. They pulled back, they said, you know, all our concerns, you come up with the plan. And I did, a 2-pager that covered the basic principles and concerns and interests of both sides. It came together in March of 1994 in Geneva at 3 in the morning. And I can't help but being emotional when I think about that, because it was unbelievable. And the plot went on and on and on.
GEF has to be a living institution. And a living institution means that the rules have to change when the time is ripe for change. GEF has certainly the chance to live many, many, many more years if it lives with its time. We see that all those environmental questions cannot be seen in silos. And GEF is the only financial instrument for environment because it has a capacity to deal with climate change, with biodiversity, with desertification, with chemicals, can try to maximize the impact on every aspect of those questions.
I was trying to do two things during my 8 years. The one is how to close the gap of the state of global commons versus this decision making. The second thing I'm trying to do is that impact is limited in that small fragmented projects. So the question is that is there any way to magnify the impact? How can we really take much more the system based approach?
I always thought that this financial instrument that was formed by the World Bank, UNDP, and UNEP was a very innovative, creative, and useful mechanism to deal with the emerging issues of the international and global agenda. Besides, was also, and this is really what I consider really most important, was a new model for the UN system in how to build institutions. As the fifth co-chair of the Council and as a participant of the replenishment and the negotiation of the instrument in the early 90s, I will always remember the support of all actors in this process. The international organizations, the governments, the civil society.
Following the news on climate change, especially the last COP in Glasgow, I was very pleased to see young generations be very motivated and into climate change. This is something we really wanted for a long time. And they were complaining a lot and pushing for financing for developing countries, thinking that nothing was done before. Well, actually, the GEF did it. The GEF did it a decade ago. And I had the honor and the pleasure to manage the first two funds that piloted adaptation financing with $1 billion with the least developing countries fund and the special climate change fund, and partially the beginning of the adaptation fund.
We just concluded a climate COP where the need for immense global financial needs was underscored. The GEF now stands at an opportune moment. We are at the threshold of the 8th replenishment. And this offers an opportunity for the replenishment to be several magnitudes higher compared to earlier replenishments. In this context, I would like to wish the GEF replenishment parties, the GEF Council, and the staff at the agencies and at the Secretariat in meeting this challenge.
We are at the crossroad in our history, and we need to take the right decisions. These should be science-based decisions with a lot of political wisdom and vision. So the decisions that we will be taking the next decade are critical to the future of humankind. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody that participate and help us to have these fabulous, great organization. So let me go over now and invite some of our staff that they're willing to send us some important messages. So let me invite Susan. Susan, are you there?
Yes, Carlos Manuel, I am here.
Come over, please. Come over, Susan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, all times respected. It's a pleasure to be here and to just say a few words during this occasion of our 30th anniversary. And firstly, I want to say just how grateful I am for this time and for how far we have come, especially during these last 2 years of the pandemic. Council meetings at this point at the auditorium, Preston Auditorium, seem so far away. As the country support program, we have engaged with countries virtually during this last time, and we've been able to accomplish a lot. But of course, we are looking forward to interacting in person, hopefully in the near future. Working with country partners, country focal points has been a great pleasure for me over the years. The country support program continues to strengthen country-level coordination and to promote genuine involvement of recipient countries and interested stakeholders. We have learned and grown as we interact with different countries. We have changed and aligned ourselves as necessary. And despite challenges, many sometimes to do with high turnover, we have made it work. The next phase promises to be an exciting time as we embark on an exciting and ambitious GEF 8 program, working even more closely with focal points, country partners, including the youth who have challenged us and have a huge stake in what we do. We look forward to putting more effort and focus on sustaining and enhancing this capacity of OFPs as they work on developing a portfolio of GEF projects that is impactful and relevant to their needs. We thank you, Council, for your continued support of the work we do as the country support program and beyond. Asanteni sana.
Asante to you, Susan. Thank you so much, Asante. Now let me invite Queen to address the floor. Queen.
Thank you, Carlos Manuel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Let me just add a very personal note. 10 years ago, I decided to join the GEF after consulting with my manager from the World Bank country office in Vietnam at the time. And she said, working for the global environment must be to work for a very good cause. And this can be a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. And so I went. I flew half the globe to join the GEF, leaving my parents, my home country. Now, after 10 years, looking back, I think it was the right decision to make. My belief in the GEF vision and mission has only grown stronger and stronger with every passing year, with reports after reports, data after data, analysis after analysis, projects after projects. I really strongly believe in the GEF vision and mission, and I'm proud, I'm honored, and I'm happy I can contribute, even though just a smaller part, to protect the future of my children, our children. So thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen, so much for your kind words. Let me pass it over to Dorji. Hi, Dorji.
Hello, thank you very much, Carlos Manuel, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important day. I want to say hello to everyone joining us from across the world. My name is Dorji. I'm a climate change specialist at the GEF Secretariat. Unlike people who have been on this screen, I joined just a little more than a year ago. And on this special day, it's my pleasure to be sharing screen with some of the luminaries that has actually built and continues to build GEF into what it is today and much better. I'm actually blessed with the opportunity to work with colleagues at program unit of the GEF Secretariat. I work with colleagues who are not only a professional in helping out to connect the different dots of policies, programs, resource mobilizations with the on-the-ground project implementation, but also fully aware about the needs and priorities of the countries and communities that we serve. And I think the skills of understanding has made us a lot of difference in delivering our service to the countries and communities. And, under the leadership of you yourself, Carlos Manuel, and your entire leadership team, it is an honor to work with the colleagues, who remains highly motivated in pursuit of our goal in the face of impending challenges that you have laid out in the beginning today. The challenges, as you have mentioned, and many others mentioned today, is that we are facing, collapsing natural and climate systems, which I think many experts are warning us that it's going to be much worse than what pandemic has done to us. And yes, we are actually very clear that pandemic has created havoc. Some of us were lucky, but not all, that we have been able to avoid the severe impacts by taking appropriate measures such as, social distancing, wearing masks, hand washing, vaccination, and in some extent lockdown as well. But I'm not very positive that these two impending crises will be able to manage that by just washing our hands regularly. I'm saying this because, as mentioned by you, Carlos Manuel, as the GEF, I see that we continue to use our unique position to address these challenges. And we are delivering this excellent results and impacts. History also tells us that some of the ancient societies such as Mayas and Aztecs and others actually faced similar environmental and climate challenges. And such historical evidences actually underscores the value that we need to play in this 21st century problem. So in this context, I believe that we as a GEF Secretariat is fully aware of the important responsibilities that we need to do to tackle the challenges. And also we recognize this as a unique opportunity to serve our humanity. I remain committed to do my part, and I thank you very much for this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful team at the GEF Secretariat, to work with all the GEF partners. Thank you very much, Carlos.
Oh, thank you so much to you, Dorji. Thank you so much. And let me now invite Abril. Abril, qué gusto de estar con vos. Muchísimas gracias. The floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, Carlos Manuel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Abril Benchimol. I lead the non-grant instrument window, and I'm very honored to have been given this space to tell you what it is like for me to work at the GEF. I joined 3 years ago, so I'm not a veteran here at the GEF, but in this time of very intense work, I can say there are two aspects that are truly exceptional of working here at the GEF. The first one is that after 14 years working in multilateral development banks and investment banking, what was great and what is great about the GEF is how it embraces innovation. You have now seen several projects under the non-grant instrument window, and every time we receive a proposal, it's highly innovative, highly different. And instead of having a no as an answer whenever we have one of these highly innovative projects, what I have from my colleagues and from my management is how do we make this happen? And that makes this organization different and truly impactful. And that's what makes a GEF partnership, in my point of view, the right organization to tackle the types of challenges that need innovation and new solutions to leave a better world for our children and the children of our children. The second aspect is my colleagues. As I mentioned, and I think it has been mentioned by Dorji before and Queen and Susan, this is not a 9 to 5 p.m. job. This is the GEF, and what we do here is our mission, our personal mission, and our commitment to our work in spite of high difficulties in the last 2 years and a half, I think has showed me the deep passion and commitment of my colleagues and all of us who work here, and of you as our council, as we move forward and we approve more projects and look forward to make a difference. So I hope, I'm not sure I'll be here in the next 30 years, but I hope that in 10 years from now, when we look back, we can just say that we're continuing delivering, but faster and at a higher scale. And we're truly devoted to innovation and finding the solutions that are needed. So thank you, Carlos Manuel, gracias for this time, and looking forward to more work together.
Muchas gracias, Abril, and thanks to Susan, the Queen, Dorji and Abril. This is just a small representation of what we have at the Secretariat, what we have at staff, IEO, and our colleagues, as well as our colleagues from the Adaptation Fund. This is not a daily job. This is a life choice. And I feel extremely honored to be leading this fabulous group of people. At the end of the day, institutions are people. This is what really makes a big difference. The people that has been before us, the people that are here, but also we look into the future to those who will be leading this organization and leading many different processes where we will be extremely optimistic about what we have for the future. And as I talk about optimism, for me, it is a real pleasure to have here today, Derek Mugisha from the Biodiversity Hub International. He's a leader from a young generation. He's from Uganda. He joined us last week in the CSO network event, which was one of the most beautiful events I've been since I joined the GEF. So I would like to ask Derek to offer his personal perspectives on the role of the GEF as we look into a very challenging future for all of us. Derek, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Like record, my name is Derek Mugisha. I'm from Uganda, which is a low-developed country. And from what I've seen, from what I've seen in the past days, one of the GEF things that I'm happy about this week has been to consider LDCs and to really support them. So, and I'll first thank also the entire council for, I know this week has been, putting your heads together and trying to bring ideas and actions that really protect this planet. And I'm really excited on behalf of young people and on behalf of people from, Global South. I hope all these things that we have discussed are really things we can put into implementation. But also congratulate Ambassador Feturi on your next term of office. I know it's always, when you're anticipating days ahead, you always also have things that you feel need to be achieved. And we're also looking forward to your leadership. And I also proud the council for approving all the necessary funding you've given us into this week. Because us as beneficiaries of the GEF, we always look at things like this, moments like this, when there's something allocated for action, and most of this amount, all the 24 projects and the $191 million US, all this shows we are moving into the right direction. But I'll start by saying we shouldn't always first get into the era and then we remember to play the catch-up game. This is something I saw to our leaders at COP26, like we don't need to get into situations that are really hard for us. And I hope this is going to really, like you discussed, you said the future, and the future for us who are still young, we still think we need one where people live in harmony with nature. So we shouldn't wait till things get tough and then you start running and committing and all these things, but we should all be work in progress. And I want to re-echo some of the things we still need to see the GEF work on in the next couple of days, or even moving up to the GEF 8 kind of program of 2022. We still need CSOs and NGOs, on the seat, like treated equally, and they have the same seat. I know Sano asked something in the chat, and you were saying, you shall get to you, or someone has to raise you to get the point. And for me, it felt like CSOs even didn't have a voice in this kind of conversation. And I think because they work with people directly, I know governments work with people because they're the ones that have the mandate, but CSOs really play a bigger role in terms of influencing these governments to do the exact thing they're supposed to do. And I hope CSOs need to be much more given influence to even air out their views or even have a voting right. I don't know if even CSOs are voting on this, but we also need to see young people on the table. I'm happy to be here to represent them, but they all need to be part of these kind of decisions that we are making on behalf of their future. But also say, I had a target last time. I said 200 million. Today I had of 191, which is really like, it gives me hope. We are moving in the right direction, and hope next time we can even double it or even add more $50 million to this, maybe have 250 or 300 million US dollars in terms of all these funds, and see that we can have the impact that we desire. But also I would want to suggest that this council, the GEF Council, can look at climate literacy as a tool that is going to help us really accelerate our actions, because once everyone is on board, they're activated, and they're willing to join this battle, then we shall not be playing the catch-up game. So we can't have the error, because everyone is on board and they're educated about the different issues we discussed. The other thing, we're also looking forward for the integration of the 3 conventions, the one on climate change, the other one on land degradation and desertification, but also the one on biodiversity, because every time they do not work together, again, we play the catch-up game, like we play the air and catch-up game. So we hope that they can continue working together. Even mobilizing funding is possible when you're all together, but also try to address these challenges together, because again, we are all being affected as one. There are no separate pieces. And I'm happy that this has been some of the things that have been put forward during this GEF Council meeting, is that we are going to have all these 3 Rio conventions really united, and we need to see this power force happen and address all these issues together, because they are really eating us up. They're eating us, they're costing us our future, which we do not even think we are yet to see. Someone mentioned they want their kids to have a good life. The good life starts with these kind of discussions when we come for these GEF Council meetings, and we are seeing work in progress, like I said. But also want to say, we need to be strong on accountability. I'm happy you have released most of these funds, although we still think they can be more money released, maybe for CSO network kind of coordination and capacity building, or even the small grants program. But we need to be keen on accountability. Some of this money released never reaches the people on ground. It ends up in offices with bigger budgets of administration and low on implementation. So we need to see this in, put in perspective, to see that all this you've committed, all these monies, I know it's not easy even committing most of these budgets, but you've worked hard to see that we can have these budgets made available. Please follow them up and think that they're going to really do what they're meant to do. The future we are talking about is not a future of just now. Even tomorrow is a day, even the next hour, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a family down there that even has no food at this point because of what's happening in the climate crisis. So the crisis says all are moving very, very fast. If we do not also act very, very fast, we shall be able to get into the other game I told you of the error and catch-up game. Again, we shall not even be able to catch up, because we can't adapt to most of these crises if they really become that much of a problem. So I would just want to thank you for this opportunity, but also we look forward to these kind of conversations. And I still think my promise to the rest of young people can be made possible, to see young people at the table discussing these issues and try to see that you're going to support youth innovations and all these, because at times it's even hard, the requirements are really very, very hard for youth to have their projects financed, but maybe you can help us with capacity building, maybe financing kind of knowledge, even administration, because most of these youth organizations are even poorly managed, or there are still gaps in management, and that becomes a loophole for us to participate as young people. So I want to thank the GEF Council. We hope all these asks that are presented forward can really be worked on in the next couple of days, months, hours, minutes, and try to see that we are moving in the right direction. But also, as we're coming to COP26, which is going to be in Africa, we shall have another review of the time that all these asks have been put perspective, how many projects. I'm happy to see all these projects around, and I want to congratulate Jeff for your 30 years anniversary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Derek, for your very strong message. I know that many of the young people of this planet see the GEF as a old school institution, and our challenge is to make it viable, position it in the front line of environmental action, so the youth can feel confident that we will be working together, dealing with the many different challenges. The increased interest and engagement with civil society and non-state actors is extremely important for all of us. So thank you so much, Derek, for your message. Highly appreciated. With this, now I would like to offer the floor to council members and dear friends attending today to address the floor. Also, I would like, as we go into this, for you all to turn on your cameras because we will be taking some pictures of everybody here. But yes, I would very much encourage council members to address the floor and send us a message. William, as usual, will help us keep in the list of the speakers.
Well, Sano had requested to here you go. Sano, you have the floor.
Many thanks. Actually, this very special and very exciting moment today, and I am really honored on behalf of the GEF CSO network, and my colleague Maria is there with me, to thank you, the GEF Council members, GEF Secretariat, and we really grateful to our CEO and then Council Secretariat officials, Francois, William, Gustavo, and others that made us to work. And the council members, it is you who made this CSO, who made me to talk now on behalf of the GEF CSO network. I remember it is almost 10 years before Dalat, the ECW, where I met William, and then we had a chance to visit the project site, and that time we had some conversation, and that was really inspiring. And then I decided I must dedicate my time there, and I have been dedicating. And there was a time then when first I participated as a council member in DC. We could not sit in the council meeting time. We sit outside, and then we watching the screen, and then we can see the progress every day. And now we are so blessed and we are so grateful that we can talk anytime when we feel there is something to talk. And your support made us so inspired to read and think. You know what big volume documents we receive before the council meeting, and I dedicate personally, I am sure my colleague, we dedicate 2-3 days to go through line by line, word by word to understand before we make any comment here. And this is really great learning opportunity and really very, very great opportunity to contribute. The excellence thing that GEF did is the engagement at the global level like this. And even more than that, the engagement at the regional level in the ECWs, where we can sit together with the government officials, demonstrate our positiveness, our cooperativeness, and our professionalism that brings nearer with the governments. And it is the GEF that they have this real participatory mechanism at the regional events like the ECWs. A lot of excellent things last 30 years the GEF have been doing. And today we have heard from the youth, Uganda, how excellent. If we don't give the opportunity, we will never see what is shining. And you are igniting individuals globally to let it shine, let them contribute to address the issue of the climate change, issue of the global environments. Taking this opportunity, we want to also focus. Please let us look at what excellent job we have done and what is not yet, and to find the innovative way coming out from the existing or traditional boxes, bottlenecks, to see what can be prioritized for next 10 years. And then pay more attention there, how we can work together, how we can make a change, how we can make a real transformation. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, GEF. Thank you, GEF CEO And thank you, council members, and thanks civil society groups from the global level. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sano.
Thank you, Sano. I see Antonio requesting the floor. You have the floor, Antonio Micha.
Muchas gracias, señor William. Permítame hablar en español. ¿Me siguen?
Sí, adelante.
Agradezco a la secretaria por la magnífica organización a pesar de los tiempos actuales de COVID. Y voy a ser breve, aunque he hecho muchos comentarios por escrito. En nombre de la circunscripción de los países Burundi, Camerún, Congo, República Centroafricana, Gabón, República Democrática del Congo, República de Sao Tomé y Príncipe y la República de Guinea Ecuatorial, tomo la palabra para agradecer al Fondo Mundial para el Medio Ambiente por este aniversario que es importante para todos nosotros, los países en vía de desarrollo y los países con retos especiales sobre la biodiversidad, cambio climático, gestión sostenible de tierras, etcétera, etcétera. Agradecemos vivamente a los países donantes del MAM, que es un mecanismo proactivo para nuestros países, porque todos los retos que tenemos en medio ambiente, el MAM es un instrumento financiero muy importante en nuestros quehaceres, en nuestras acciones. Alentamos a los países donantes por esta generosidad. Agradecemos a la secretaria por este empeño diario, que es un esfuerzo tremendo para consagrar a diario los retos de la humanidad, porque la tarea de la secretaria se ha vislumbrado para la política en materia de favor del medio ambiente. También queremos aprovechar esta oportunidad de que las evaluaciones que se han llevado, tal como el primer día que se presentó, recogen todas las recomendaciones y agradecemos vivamente a la secretaria por haber hecho caso a las recomendaciones de las encuestas que la mayor parte de la comunidad del MAM ha contribuido al respecto. Y tenemos que agradecer este gesto y alentamos de que tengan en cuenta, tal como los demás oradores, los puntos focales, el mecanismo de apoyo a los puntos focales operacionales para que también puedan hacer su rol de visión de las acciones del MAM y que tengan su sostenibilidad, porque una acción que se ha sido implementada por el MAM requiere la sostenibilidad. Para que haga sostenibilidad, los puntos focales deben jugar su rol para la implicación de la comunidad local que tienen sus habilidades y los saberes tradicionales. Los puntos focales sabemos identificar estas potencialidades. Agradecemos una vez más la visión del MAM, que tiene su fundamento en la justicia social, convincente de que el futuro del planeta sigue siendo esperanzador para la humanidad. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Antonio. Thank you so much.
Well, I don't, Nino from Georgia, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, William. I would like to thank all of you on behalf of the 12 Eastern European countries, which constituency I represent here as an alternate member of Council. I would like to stress that during those many long years, we are sharing not only financial support from GEF, but real knowledge and real very good spirit. So thank you very much for such brilliant arrangements and the implementation of this council meeting. And I would like to hope for all of us to have next meeting face to face. Thank you very much and good luck to all of us and our nature. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nino. Gabriela, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. I'll keep it short since it's probably very late in the eastern part of this world already. Too bad we couldn't have this celebration in person over drinks. That would have been very nice. I want to use this opportunity primarily to thank all of you, the GEF Secretariat. It's only possible because of you, because of your great engagement, because of all your efforts and the efforts from the operational focal points in the various countries, and of course, all the staff in the implementing agencies. So thank you so much to all of you for all your timeless engagement, overtime, crazy hours, virtual meetings in the middle of the night, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for all of that. And of course, we hope to see some of you in person if possible for the next replenishment meeting. And we can at least a little bit celebrate then. And until then, my 2-year-old son was heavily clapping along before when you were clapping. No babysitter around, now he's back. Anyway, so I hope we can continue with the GEF for the benefit of him and all the future generations to come. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Gabriela. Thanks. Any final words, Mete? Oh, we got Mexico.
Brenda,
no,
you have the floor. Brenda, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. I will speak briefly in Spanish. Solo queremos secundar los comentarios hechos por Gabriela. Nos sumamos totalmente al reconocimiento, al agradecimiento de todo el trabajo del secretariado. Nosotros, pues como saben, en México hemos casi renovado todo el equipo que está viendo todo el tema de los fondos verdes recientemente, y la verdad es que hemos encontrado muchísimo apoyo de parte de Williams. Acá entre nos tenemos una broma que siempre decimos, San William nos va a salvar de esta, ¿no? Entonces, pues nada, solamente agradecerles y muchas felicidades y por muchos años más. Gracias.
Gracias, Brenda. Thank you so much. So, Mete, your final comments?
Thank you very much, Carlos Manuel, and thanks to all for all the greetings to the GEF. I second Gabriela and hope that we will be able to meet in person, and I will also join in for any late celebrations then. Thank you very much to you, Carlos Manuel, and all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mete, and thanks, everybody. I just want to finalize this agenda item and this week of very hard work by saying, Jeff, a happy birthday. Thank you so much to those who were before us, to all who are here with us and looking into the future. I'm extremely excited of the many things that we will be doing in the next 30 years. Muchas gracias. With this, we will finish our 61st Council meeting. I want to thank everybody for the long hours throughout this week. I wish you all happy holidays. Be safe, and with a lot of energy, optimism, and commitment. I hope that I will see you all next year, 2022. Muchas gracias, and be safe. Thanks. Que pasen buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Joyeux Noël.
Bye.